Betrayal hits different when it's your own team. She knew things were shaky, but catching a death sentence from her squad wasn't the plan. Taking a major L from the hero instead of the final boss is the ultimate irony. Guess the good guys were capping about being righteous. The situation is looking pretty permanent. With 0 mana left to fix the damage, she's basically just waiting for the game over screen. A shady voice suddenly slides into the chat. It's sensing all that resentment and wants to know if she's finally ready to flip the script. This definitely isn't a voice from the heavens. Still, when the light leaves you to rot, the dark side starts looking like a solid option. The villain arc officially starts now. She's ready to trade her halo for a chance to make everyone who crossed her regret their entire existence. The contract is on the table, join the shadows, and any wish, no matter how vengeful, becomes a reality. Her vision is blurring as the last bit of life leaves her body. She finally realizes she should have taken the dark side's deal way earlier. She reflects on her life of endless prayer and following orders. Being the party's heel bot was a trap, and she just wanted to live life on her own terms. Her limit is finally reached, and she blanks out entirely. Dark, shadowy spikes erupt from the ground and swallow her whole. A giant void opens up in the sky, right above the human city. It looks like the universe or something even darker actually heard her final wish. Cut to the Demon King's castle, where the vibe is entirely different. Our Saintess wakes up as a tiny bird sitting in a pile of clothes. Turns out the Demon King is just a young kid with a lot of power. He has successfully turned his #1 enemy into one of his own. The war between humans and demons has been dragging on for ages, since this era's hero was a certified joke. The king decided to just steal the Saintess instead. With the Saintess finally accepting his dark invitation, the hero's party is finished. Our boy is ready to watch their entire influence crumble. Right in the middle of his big moment, a memory of his pet chick from 50 years ago flashes through his mind. Smoke fills the room as he waits for the results. He was expecting a top-tier female demon, but only hears a faint rustling from the pile of clothes. Instead of a demon queen, the Saintess has turned into a tiny chick. This was not part of the plan, and he knows he botched the spell. The tiny bird chirps and hops right into his palm. It is a major shift from the original vibe. Looking at the fluffy bird, he decides she is way too cute for him to stay annoyed about the mistake. His subordinates will probably follow his lead and love the new addition. Even as a bird, she still has a saintly habit of keeping herself perfectly groomed. A door slams open as the king rushes in, shouting for his prime minister. Zebes can barely hide her shock. Zebes is revealed to be a dragon and the prime minister of the demon realm. She explains that if he had arrived any later, the Saintess would have been stuck as a powerless bird. Our boy is completely drained after sprinting for the first time in centuries. Zebes sighs, telling him he should have just used a summoning spell instead of running. Zebes admits that while turning people into kin is her specialty, this result is a first even for her. The king leans in, asking if the transformation was actually a success. He confesses he let his guard down because the ritual was too easy, accidentally thinking of his old pet bird. Zebes is speechless that such a legendary disaster was caused by a random memory. The king acknowledges his mistake just as the Saintess starts to wake up. Despite her current tiny form, he reminds Zebes that this girl was once the most dangerous magic user alive. The tiny bird lets out a confused chirp that sounds exactly like the real thing. The king looks on, realizing his accidental mental image really did overwrite her human form. Zebes explains that even though the spell was botched, she is working hard to keep the Saintess's mind from breaking. It is going to be a long road, but Zebes is confident the girl will eventually return to her human form. There is a major catch though, because her brain briefly became a bird's. Her emotions have reverted to those of a toddler. Since she is mentally a child, using her for war is out of the question. Our boy asks for the bottom line, and Zebes just gives him a very suspicious silence. She hits him with the hard truth, telling him he needs to step up and start parenting. Since he is the one in charge now, she suggests the first logical step is giving the little fluff ball a name. Giving a name is the final step to seal a person's soul as kin, so our king starts brainstorming what to call her. Our king is officially in girl dad mode, pondering over the perfect name while the tiny Saintess glows on the table. Since she is stuck as a chick for now, he figures something cute is the only way to go. Our boy is deep in the naming lab, surrounded by imaginary chicks while he tries to cook up the perfect vibe. He finally mutters the name Hiyoko, and the room immediately explodes in a blinding flash. Zebes is caught completely off guard as the naming ritual locks in. A magic circle flashes as the name Hiyoko is officially locked in, stunning the king and Zebes. With the ritual complete, a strange energy shroud wraps around the little fluff ball to finalize the bond. The strain leaves our boy slumped on the sofa in exhaustion while Hiyoko just sits on the table and lets out a casual burp. The king finishes explaining her new reality and admits the whole transformation is his fault. He officially promises to take full responsibility for raising her from now on. Now that her memories are finally clicking into place, Hiyoko is officially spiraling. Reality hits hard as she realizes her life as a holy saintess has been traded for a beak and feathers. Her head is spinning with memories of the hero's betrayal and the shock of seeing the Demon King's youthful face for the first time. She still can't believe this kid is actually serious about raising her herself. Hiyoko is losing the struggle against her new bird instincts as her body starts grooming itself during their talk. Our boy isn't feeling the disrespect and calls her out for being rude while he is speaking. Expecting the ultimate lecture, our girl waits for the hammer to drop, but the Demon King just tells her to relax, a massive upgrade from her human days when a small mistake meant skipping a whole meal. A tiny poke on the head follows as he explains his side of things. It turns out he was monitoring the human world specifically to find her. Demons are apparently way more chill than the humans she used to know. He explains that her bird-brained instincts are just a side effect of her soul being in a temporary toddler state. That realization hits different. Even though they are supposed to be enemies, this kid is treating her better than anyone else ever has. The chains are finally off as he tells her she can spend her time however she wants, no more being restricted by the church or her old party. Living for herself is a total curveball that she can barely process. He even encourages her to use her holy powers to her heart's content without holding anything back. That was the green light she needed. She starts chirping and flapping around in his palm because this new life is officially the best. The landscape outside is a wild world far removed from anything she knows. She realizes being in the demon realm changes her situation for the better. She's already dreaming about fighting the strongest demons in the land. The Demon King is puzzled because she does not act like a typical Saintess at all. The church forced her into the mold of a modest, pure Saintess for years. She spent her days quietly backing up the hero while hiding her true nature from the world. She hated being forced into a support role when she craved combat. Our girl was a battle junkie who just wanted to throw hands on the front lines. For her, being treated this well makes the demon realm feel like heaven. This dude is starting to get a bad feeling about her aggressive vibes. Finding comfort in his hands feels better than anything she experienced before. He lets out a soft sigh because she is too much to handle. He tells her she has done enough and should finally get some rest. The warmth inside his clothes is a welcome change from her old life. The Demon King preps a massive bed, but she ends up crashing in a tiny basket instead. She sleeps like a log and realizes she is adapting to bird life fast. Breakfast time comes around, and the Demon King asks if she is planning to introduce herself to the castle staff. She gives a tiny chirp of agreement. He realizes she wants to explore while getting a handle on her new body. He gives her the green light to roam. She knows this is a necessary move to scout her new home and maybe see some familiar faces. As she starts digging into a fried egg, he warns her to watch her step so she doesn't get squashed. She chirps back a confident okay. He watches her eat with a weird look, admitting that seeing a bird eat an egg is a total contradiction. She just stares back, not seeing the big deal. By day 2, this dude has officially entered his girl dad era. He makes her chirp constantly so no one accidentally flattens her, turning her stroll into a very loud walk. Staring down the long hallway, she realized walking at a bird pace would take forever. It was time to cheat just a little bit. She wondered if her magic still worked in this body and gave it a test run. It worked, sending her flying forward like a tiny white rocket. Our girl zoomed through the halls, hoping she had the speed settings right as she chirped everyone she passed. A staff member barely saw her coming before she was already gone. Stopping right in front of a guard, she gave a friendly introduction, but the dude just stared in shock. He had no idea how to react to a bird talking to him. The silence was getting awkward, so she figured he was just stunned to see a former enemy. She did not let it get her down and zoomed off to find someone else. Several dozen minutes passed as she continued her chaotic tour through the castle. Back in the throne room, Zebes reported that a chick was causing sonic booms while chirping at everyone in the hallway. The Demon King was speechless at the chaos his new pet was causing. Zebes reports that the staff is losing it because they cannot understand the bird chirps. It sounds like she is getting discouraged by the lack of response from everyone she meets. Since she is his kin, he is the only one who can actually speak her language. She mistakenly thought everyone could understand her, but to them, she is just a loud bird. Hearing that she is depressed, he stands up to go find her. Zebes points out that the little bird is probably having a rough time with the social rejection. Scene change to the kitchen where our girl is a puddle of sadness in an egg tray. The chefs are confused why their breakfast ingredient is having a midlife crisis. He finally finds her and scoops her up from the egg carton. She is so emotionally drained from the ghosting that she does not even want to move. Back in his hand, she lets out a weak chirp. She realizes that being ignored feels the same, whether you are in the human realm or the demon realm. He clears things up and tells her that the staff was not ignoring her on purpose. They simply do not speak bird. Zebes explains that only those with a special connection can actually understand her bird talk. The king looks down at his hand, admitting he completely forgot that everyone else just hears chirping. She lets out a massive sigh of relief after finding out she was not being ignored on purpose. The king tells her to cheer up and promises to keep her energetic spirits high for the next round of greetings. With her confidence back, she lets out a happy chirp to show she is ready for whatever comes next. The king smiles at his new little companion before deciding it is finally time to head back. The king gives a quick apology to the kitchen staff for the sudden interruption. She gives one last wave to the chefs, leaving them standing there totally speechless as they watch her go. The chefs finally snap out of it and wave goodbye as the duo makes their exit. She chirps that she will definitely be back, marking the official start of her chaotic new life in the demon realm. Our king strolling through the palace halls with his new little bird on his hand. Hiyoko is already drained from her first day of movement. She realized the earlier chaos was just a huge misunderstanding with the staff. Our boy can't help but smirk as he thinks about how easily Hiyoko won over everyone in the castle. She really has a way of capturing hearts without even trying. Flashback to the kitchen where the chefs were practically melting when the king came to pick her up. Their concern for her was reaching critical levels. Whether she is puffing up with energy or hiding among the breakfast eggs, she is a walking cuteness overload. Even when she's dejected, she looks like a little marshmallow. She is just too cute. The king watches her closely and wonders what kind of spell she put on his staff to make them act like that. They finally arrive at the office where Zebes is waiting with a warm welcome. Hiyoko chirps a greeting while the king gives a short reply. The king's office is simple, but definitely screams wealth and power. Hiyoko takes it all in. This is a massive upgrade from her life of poverty as a human. Back at his desk, the king is buried in paperwork, while Hiyoko watches from the sidelines. She wonders if he actually ditched his duties just to come get her, then decides to hop over and give his documents a little poke. He looks down and asks if she is trying to be a paperweight. She chirps back a confident yes, and our boy can't help but call her a good girl while she puffs up with pride. A few minutes later, the boredom finally wins. Hiyoko is knocked out cold right on top of his work, and the king realizes the office vibe was just too relaxing for her. Looking at her peaceful face, he admits he doesn't have the heart to wake her up. Zebes just watches from the couch with a look that says he is definitely not paid enough for this babysitting duty. When the king asks if he should really wake her, Zebes starts lecturing him about training his pet to stay out of the way. Our boy isn't hearing it, telling his aide to move her himself if he has such a big problem with her nap. Zebes shuts that down immediately because he doesn't want Hiyoko to hate him for the rest of time. The king just stares at him in disbelief, realizing he hasn't been this annoyed with his right-hand man in a long, long time. Since he is her official guardian after all, he accepts that it can't be helped. Reaching out with a serious look, he starts to cast a summoning spell to handle the situation his way. Zebes asks what he is doing. Looking pretty worried, the king just tells him to sit back and watch. Our boy puts everything he has got into trying to wake up the tiny bird. Even with all that effort, Hiyoko is still sleeping like a rock. He lets out a long breath, admitting he used as much focus as a forbidden spell. Zebes is not impressed though, pointing out that his dignity as a king has officially left the chat. The king tells him to shut it, knowing full well he has lost his cool. Meanwhile, the little fluff ball is still dreaming away in her basket. Cut to the dining hall later that night. Since he is her guardian now, the king decides they will be eating every morning and evening meal together. Dinner is served and it is a masterpiece of a kid's meal. Hiyoko is losing her mind, thinking it is the most incredible food she has ever seen. The king casually mentions it is just a kid's meal, but she is not convinced to her. That little flag on top makes this a top-tier feast that beats any full-course dinner. Seeing the effort put into the meal, the Demon King notes that his chefs really went above and beyond for their tiny guest. Hiyoko is losing it over how good everything tastes. Our boy just smiles, reminding her to thank the kitchen staff for the feast later. Compared to the kids' meal, the dinner for the king is just a standard high-end dish. It looks pretty boring in comparison. The little fluff ball actually starts feeling bad for him. Such a shame he is stuck with boring adult food. Sharing her prize is the only logical move in her mind, and her eyes sparkle with excitement at the idea. A polite refusal is all he gives. His own portion is plenty, and he just wants her to enjoy every single bite. Pure joy radiates from her as she starts tearing into the food. The king gets so distracted watching her that he completely stops eating, content to just see her happy. Hiyoko asks if the king is busy even offering to be his personal paperweight for the day. He jokes that she can only help if she promises not to nap on the job. Since she passed on the first offer, he has another idea. He asks if she would like to try going on a little errand for him. Picking up some documents is the mission and she is already on board. She chirps with excitement, ready to show the castle what she can do. A stylish little bow is tied around her neck before she heads out. He gives her the directions, telling her to go down 2 floors and find the room at the very end. Zebes cannot help but meddle, telling her to just snatch the papers from the dragon down there. Our boy is not having it, telling him to stop teaching the bird his chaotic ways. The little fluff ball is already over the conversation and just wants to get moving. Seeing her boredom, the king apologizes for the long lecture. With a final wave and a reminder to stay safe, the door is opened. It is officially time for her first big assignment. Hiyoko is officially locked in for her first mission. With a stylish bow around her neck and a determined chirp, she blasts off before the king and Zebes can even process her speed. The king explains he told her to keep chirping so she does not get squashed by accident. It turns out she is a perfect student, following his every word while she streaks through the castle corridors. She is a white blur spiraling down the stairwell, 2 floors down and 1 sharp left turn later. She finds the exact door she was looking for. Knock knock, it is the delivery bird. She slams her tiny body against the door to make sure she is heard before quickly powering down her physical reinforcement magic. The door creaks open and a guy with horns looks around for the source of the noise. He thinks it is a prank until he looks down and sees our little MC waiting patiently at his feet. He scoops her up and admits the boss already gave him the heads up about her visit. Even though she is tiny, he is impressed she is handling this errand solo. A gentle head pat is her reward for the hard work. She spins around with a chirp while he heads over to the cabinet to grab the papers she came for. Before he can finish, she starts pulling out a special item of her own. This clerk is stunned that Hiyoko is using an expensive subspace wrapping cloth just for a casual errand. He can't believe such a high-class item is being used for a simple castle delivery. He wonders how much Zebes must dote on her to give her something so valuable. Hiyoko just tilts her head, wondering if Zebes is actually way older than he looks. The mood shifts instantly when the clerk realizes the deadline is only 1 minute away. Hiyoko chirps in panic as the pressure of the mission finally kicks in. He stuffs the documents into her bag, apologizing for not having any sweets to give her. There's no time to lose, so he begs her to get these to the king as fast as possible. Hiyoko locks in and activates her physical reinforcement magic. She turns into a white blur, blasting down the hallway with incredible speed. The clerk watches in awe as she streaks away. Having already memorized the perfect route, she aims straight for the door, determined to make it in time. She comes in hot and tumbles across the floor in a cloud of dust. She picks herself up, wondering what that weird cracking sound was. The Demon King points a finger behind him. Hiyoko, turn around and take a look. She spins around to see a bird-shaped crater in the expensive door. Her reinforcement magic really did a number on the wood. Panic sets in, but he brushes it off to focus on the documents. She hands them over with a nervous chirp. He officially receives the papers and offers a head pat for a job well done. She is on cloud 9 until he says it is time to move on to the next topic. His smile suddenly has a lot more edge to it. Next, it is time for a little lecture. Getting in trouble is one thing, but sitting through a marathon lecture is way worse. He spends ages teaching her the importance of watching where she flies. We kicks off with the aftermath of the King's safety lecture, and Hiyoko is looking completely cooked. A knock at the door interrupts the mood, and the king tells the visitor to come on in. Orbis walks in and is stoked to see our favourite little chick is still around. He immediately starts clowning on the bird-shaped hole in the door, but the king is not in the mood for jokes. Turns out he is here to deliver a reward for her successful delivery mission. Orbis scoops her up to give her some props, and Hiyoko is just vibing with how good he smells. He leans in with a smirk, noticing that this little bird has a surprisingly sharp eye. Rewards are finally in, and it is a box of cookies shaped exactly like her. She is absolutely losing it over how cute they are. Turns out, Orbis is a perfectionist when it comes to snacks. He grabs a plate to serve them up the right way. Snack time for the whole squad. Even the boss is ready to join in and try one. She is ready to feast. But the king has to play dad first. He offers to break her cookie into bite-sized pieces. He snaps the bird cookie right down the middle. Seeing her own face split like that is a weird vibe for our girl. Watching the king destroy her cookie likeness is a total downer. The mood just shifted in a big way. The king notices her face falling and wonders why she looks so stressed. He clearly has no idea what he just did to her. The king has reached his limit. He cannot bring himself to break the cute cookie anymore, so he dumps the task on Orbis. Problem solved, Orbis turns the treat into bite-sized crumbs so our tiny hero can actually eat. She is happily feasting on the wreckage. Orbis is enjoying the moment until a knock at the door kills the vibe. Prime Minister Zebes is back, but he is confused as to why the record keeper is hanging out in the office. Orbis just wanted to reward the bird for a job well done. Zebes knows this dude has a major soft spot for children. Orbis calls out the hypocrisy. Zebes is clearly hiding a mysterious gift bundle of his own. Hiyoko is officially lost. She pokes the boss to get the tea on the relationship between these two demons. The boss drops a major truth bomb about the staff. Turns out the Prime Minister and the record keeper are actually grandfather and grandson. This is brand new info for our girl, who never had a family of her own. She heard human grandparents were super sweet, so she wonders if demons just hit different. The king clarifies that demon grandparents are usually just as doting as anyone else. Zebes isn't having it and calls their situation a total exception. He claims he used to be a top-tier grandpa before the vibes went sour. Our tiny hero chirps out a question that the king has to translate. She wants to know exactly why they stopped being cool with each other. The beef is finally explained. One dragon accidentally trashed a treasure cave, and the other retaliated by wrecking the biggest hoard in the collection. While the two keep arguing, the boss explains the high stakes. He whispers that a treasure cave is the most important place for any dragon. The boss listens to the dragon family beef and concludes that both of them are definitely the problem. He tells the tiny bird to stay out of it since nothing good ever comes from meddling in family drama. Hiyoko agrees while enjoying some head pats and snacks. Our girl is living her best life, guiding the king's finger to the perfect scratching spot. She is starting to realize that being a pampered bird actually hits different. Suddenly, a massive boom echoes through the castle, nearly shaking the bird right off her seat. The boss looks out the window at the rising smoke and casually mentions that random outlaws like to drop by to challenge for the throne. Hiyoko wonders if a single loss means game over, but the king explains that his title is divinely appointed regardless of any street brawls. He is more distracted by how fluffy she looks when she is scared. Hiyoko asks if he needs to go down there, but the king has zero interest in fighting anyone who can't even bother to book an appointment first. The boss notes that intruders actually broke through the gate this time, which is rare since the gatekeepers usually handle it. Our tiny hero chirps a question, wondering if this is actually a threat to the king. The king admits it is mostly just a noisy nuisance that ruins the staff's workflow. Hearing that, Hiyoko chirps a confident goodbye and leaps straight out of his hand. She sticks the landing and immediately rockets off toward the commotion. The boss is left standing there alone, wondering where his little bird went so fast. Our girl is hyped to finally be useful and hits max speed through the halls. The castle staff have developed insane reflexes just to avoid getting leveled by her reinforced bird body. She dives straight into the middle of the chaos and tells everyone to get back. The guards are stunned as they watch a tiny white blur zip through the battlefield. Once the area is clear, she preps a massive move. She forgets that only the king understands her warning, as she unleashes a total bombardment spell on the intruders. The smoke clears to reveal the intruders completely wiped out by the blast. Hiyoko lets out a tiny sigh of relief, proud that she managed to get her own barrier up before the explosion hit. The king drops in and immediately kills the vibe. He is not mad, just disappointed. She is using S-rank magic, like it is a casual lawn game. Our girl just gives a tiny chirp and hopes she does not get grounded. Orbis tries to snitch, complaining that he almost caught a stray from her blast. Hiyoko hits him with a legendary death stare. Now he is terrified that his big mouth just doubled the king's lecture time. He tries to backpedal and act like it was all a big misunderstanding. The sweat is real as he realizes a tiny bird is judging his entire existence. His partner steps in and exposes the truth. The intruders only got in because Orbis left his post earlier. He tries to hype up the enemy's strength to save face, but nobody is listening. Seeing his reputation tank, he pivots to full fanboy mode. He is actually impressed she tapped a high-level threat and calls her the most fearsome saint. That title hits Hiyoko like a truck. She is supposed to be a holy healer, but apparently the demons see her as a walking natural disaster. The king is not done with the safety talk and scoops her up for round 2. Hiyoko is too busy processing her new reputation to even worry about the lecture anymore. The magic system is deep, with S-rank spells being the second highest tier in existence. The Demon King is not even phased, just giving her head pats like a proud dad. One of the guards is still seeing stars after getting caught in the crossfire of her massive blast. He admits he was a bit careless for not listening to the boss's warning. The guards are fully on board now, calling her the Calamity Saintess. Having a literal nuke on their side is the ultimate insurance policy. Our girl is soaking up the compliments, but the vibe takes a turn. The guards mention it is a shame she cannot use her old holy magic anymore. The king stops dead in his tracks. He asks if turning into a demon actually locks away her holy spells. According to the law, demons are protected by the god of darkness and strictly use dark magic. The guards are shocked the king did not know the basic rules of their own world. It is a simple trade-off. Humans get the light and demons get the dark. Every race has their own specific lane and nobody ever crosses them. No way. She chirps in denial. Losing her holy magic would be a disaster, and now she is stuck wondering what to do. The magic system in this world is fairly straightforward when it comes to the basics. Standard elements like fire, water, and earth are universal tools that both humans and demons can wield without any issues. The real line in the sand is drawn at the high-tier stuff. Demons are the only ones who can tap into dark magic, while holy magic is a power reserved strictly for humanity. Back at the castle, the boss notices his bird is acting a bit weird. He holds her up to eye level and asks if she is feeling okay after the gatekeeper's lecture. Hiyoko chirps back that it is nothing, but she can barely keep her head up. Her shoulders slump as she stares blankly at his palm with a look of pure defeat. Orbis leans in to offer some expert uncle advice on the situation. He figures she is just hitting that wall where a kid gets sleepy and turns into a total menace. The king buys the excuse and decides it is officially nap time. Orbis nods along, recalling how his own apprentices used to crash or start crying for no reason at all. Before heading out, the king leaves the captured intruder in the hands of his capable guards. They give him a sharp salute as he carries Hiyoko back toward the inner chambers. The boss tucks our girl into her tiny basket bed for a nap. He tells her to just sleep it off for now. Seeing her this depressed is really messing with his head. He gives her a gentle head pat while she chirps weakly. She wakes up to find the king busy at his desk with Zebes. He cuts his finger on some paper while she watches. Hiyoko spots the blood and panics immediately. She channels her power and a warm glow covers the wound. The king is absolutely shook by what just happened. He stares at his healed finger in disbelief. This is a major problem because demons are forbidden from using holy magic. They only have access to dark spells. Reality hits her hard as she realizes she messed up. She just flexed holy magic in the demon castle. Our girl is having a major internal crisis right now. She had a feeling her holy magic was still there, but she definitely did not mean to leak it right in front of the boss. Panic mode is fully engaged as she worries about being kicked out for being a freak. If the demons find out she can still use holy magic, she might lose her new home. The boss catches her by surprise, but instead of being mad, he is actually hyped. He calls her a genius while she just vibrates in pure terror. He gives her a gentle head pat, noting how rare it is for a demon to still flex holy magic. He is honestly impressed and asks Zebes if their little bird is not the smartest thing ever. Zebes is fully on board and gives her a radiant smile that is almost too bright to look at. He agrees that the strongest and cutest chick in history has officially been born. Hiyoko is confused, because this vibe is the exact opposite of what she expected. The boss starts piecing things together and wonders if there's more to her backstory. He asks if she could use dark magic as a human, and it finally clicks for her. Turns out she was using dark magic her whole life without realizing humans were never supposed to be able to do that. The boss is taking the news surprisingly well, figuring our girl was just born built different with some special magic. Zebes is already her #1 fan, basically crowning her as the goat of chicks while she takes it all in. Zebes catches her doing something adorable and he is clearly won over. He cannot get over how precious she is while a warm radiance surrounds her tiny body. Having a doting king and a proud grandpa watching over her completely changes the vibe. All her stress disappears instantly because she knows she is finally safe. The boss likes the new energy and gives her a little shout out. Zebes asks if she is ready for a quick health check and she gives him an enthusiastic chirp. It is time for a professional checkup from the castle top expert on familiars. Zebes handles the exam with pure care, making sure our little bird is doing okay. The king wants to know when she will finally be able to speak again. Zebes notes that her affinity for this bird body is actually way higher than expected, though her magic circuits are looking healthy. She starts questioning her own identity after hearing she might be too good at being a bird. Zebes begins to suspect she might not even be that disappointed about staying silent. Zebes realizes the human transformation is stalled because Hiyoko has fully accepted her life as a bird. The king asks if she is unconsciously fighting the magic, and Zebes confirms she just wants to stay a chick for now. Zebes thinks her hesitation is natural after her past trauma, but notes her speech will return whenever she is ready. Hiyoko just chirps in confusion while the adults discuss her future. He believes she could probably change back to her human form instantly if she actually wanted to. Hiyoko starts feeling guilty because she realized she was accidentally sabotaging all of the Prime Minister's hard work. Zebes tells her not to worry since plenty of demons skip the human appearance entirely. He says staying as a chick is perfectly fine if that makes her happy. He admits he would still love for her to talk eventually so they can finally have a real conversation. Zebes shows off that top-tier grandpa energy. Our girl is officially impressed by his massive capacity for kindness. The king is definitely caught in his feels. He asks if Zebes is just trying to score points with his favorite bird. Zebes claps back and tells the boss to stop flexing just because he understands bird talk. Our MC knows the truth is written all over the king's face. Relaxing in a flower vase gives her some time to think. Watching the boys bicker makes her realize it is finally time to find her voice again. Back at the office, she considers the practical side of her new life. Talking would make her missions much smoother and let her support the king properly. The boss picks up on her vibe immediately. He says she shouldn't rush things and should just focus on living a healthy life for now. That was the ultimate fatherly response, but it did not really answer her question. She chirps out a follow-up, wondering if he has a specific goal in mind for her since he turned her into a demon. The king drops a major truth bomb and says he never actually had a grand plan for her. Neutralizing the Saintess was just a survival move to keep the demon realm from getting nuked. Our girl is definitely shook and starts chirping for some logic. If he just wanted her out of the way, turning her into a demon felt like a major overcomplication. The boss lets out a heavy sigh because babysitting her is a full-time job. Apparently every other demon was just relieved she stopped being a threat and became his problem. He admits there were easier ways to handle the situation, but his hands were tied. There is a bigger reason why things ended up this way. A dark shift as the source of the chaos is revealed. The king explains that they received a direct oracle from their god, and in this realm, that means the evil god himself. Hiyoko is lost in the source. She barely even knows the king, so hearing about a shadowy deity was not on her bingo card for today. This god usually only drops messages when he is bored, but the king considered this one a total win. Our bird MC can only tilt her head and wonder what she got herself into. The boss explains that the oracle specifically ordered him to make the Saintess his familiar, which basically means turning her into a demon. He looks way too smug about it, admitting the council banned him from making familiars for years. Since it is a direct order from his god, not even his advisors can say no to him this time. Watching him make that classic villain face is a total vibe, but Hiyoko is more curious about the ban. She chirps a quick follow-up to find out what he did to get restricted in the first place. Turns out the guy is a massive softie who dotes on his familiars so much that he stops functioning when they pass away. Zebes basically had to stage an intervention because the king was becoming useless for the demon realm. The reason for her bird form finally comes to light as the king remembers his childhood pet, Piyokichi. He was thinking of the bird during her transformation, and the magic just went with his memory. Having no blood family of his own, he treated his past familiars like actual children and spoiled them rotten. Our bird MC is skeptical and asks if he really went that hard on the favoritism. He admits the constant lectures from his staff were enough to make him change his ways. Now he is doing his absolute best to stay professional, though Hiyoko can tell he just hates getting scolded. Since Hiyoko never had a blood family, she feels a weird sense of kinship with the Demon King. A simple head pat is enough to make her forget the isolation of her past. She thinks back to the hero mentioning his family, realizing how much it hurt to be the only one without a home. Being alone in a world where everyone else has someone is a special kind of sad. The memories are bringing her down, so she shakes her head to toss those toxic thoughts away. The king notices her sudden glitching and asks what is going on. Our boy pulls out a tiny brush to groom her ruffled feathers, and she is clearly loving the spa treatment. She chirps with joy while he treats her like a precious guest. Time for a live demo. She chirps a command and the floating targets are instantly locked in blocks of ice. She follows up with a series of explosions and a water strike that leaves the demon staff stunned. This tiny bird is a walking artillery unit, and she is not even trying yet. She is so eager to keep blasting that the king has to tell her to hold up so they can actually fix the targets. Her trigger finger is way too fast for the equipment to keep up. She finishes her drink and looks up for the final verdict. The king gives her a nod, confirming that she passed the test without any issues. Zebes weighs in with his professional opinion, admitting that her ability to spam S-rank spells is top tier for the demon realm. The Prime Minister is officially impressed by the tiny artillery unit. The guards are having a crisis after watching the demo. Igni is convinced a chirping nuke is the stuff of nightmares, while Chris reminds him this was his idea. While the king lays down some ground rules for the trip to the training facility, our MC is high on her own supply. She is feeling proud of her magical flex. Now for the million-dollar question, is she finally allowed to leave the nest? Turns out this whole fire show was actually a secret entrance exam for the outside world. Life in the demon realm is chill, but it runs on a survival of the fittest law. It is not exactly a war zone, but random street brawls are basically part of the local culture. Since the king is too busy for a playdate, Zebes handles the snacks while the MC brags about her undefeated record. Our boy can only respond with the heaviest sigh in the world. The king gives her the green light, handing over a custom magic tool and a bag full of snacks. She is officially cleared to leave the nest. He explains the necklace is a high-level safety device. It will teleport her back if she gets hurt, and even has a manual defense shield. She is impressed by the double-function gear. This is her first time using a magic tool, and she knows this level of tech is seriously expensive. Our boy starts overthinking the safety rules, suggesting a recall for even a minor scratch. Hiyoko knows that would end her fun way too fast. She tells him the current settings are fine and starts heading out. Zebes points out that making things too strict would just make the trip a chore. The king gives her one last serious look, telling her to be careful out there. Zebes keeps it light with a casual goodbye as she nears the exit. She gives a happy chirp and waves as she crosses the bridge. The two of them watch from the castle as she finally begins her solo mission. The king stops dead in his tracks as his brain finally catches up. He realizes he was so preoccupied with her safety that he never actually asked where she was going. Zebes doesn't help the mood, casually noting that the chick is already out of sight. Time for the first solo mission. Hiyoko leaves the castle behind to start her big outing. Hiyoko studies her map to keep the solo mission on track. Since the Demon King will worry if she stays out past sunset, she decides to hurry. A quick physical reinforcement spell sends her zooming off like a feathered rocket, speeding through the rocky plains. The air is starting to sizzle as she gets closer to her goal. She reaches the gates of the Phoenix volcano. All the welcome banners make this place look like a weird tourist trap. Nobody is around to greet her, which feels off. Regardless, the goal is clear. Following the path from this gate will take her straight to the crater. Pure hype, she scales the peak and finds a massive stone nest waiting at the top. A massive flaming bird looks down at the tiny guest. The Phoenix asks if this little chick actually has business with her. Hiyoko confirms she has business, but then tells the Phoenix to wait a second. She proceeds to pull out a thermos and pour a nice cup of tea for herself. The tiny bird chugs 2 full cups of barley tea while the legendary Phoenix waits patiently. It is scorching hot in the crater, so she makes sure to stay properly hydrated before making any big moves. A warning about heat stroke comes first as Phoenix asks if she is finally finished. Once the break is over, the massive bird asks the real question about why Hiyoko came all the way here. With a look of pure focus, Hiyoko reveals she is here to test her strength. She is not just a guest, she is a challenger. It turns out our girl found a tourist map and decided to try some casual dojo breaking. Since she has been bored lately, taking down a heavenly king seemed like a perfect plan. The hype takes a massive hit when Phoenix apologizes and says she is currently on vacation. Hiyoko's eyes sparkle with desperation because her big plans are about to be ruined by a day off. A heavy sigh follows as Phoenix finally gives in and agrees to be her opponent. Our tiny warrior jumps for joy and gives a polite thank you for the chance to fight. Phoenix is surprisingly wholesome and commends Hiyoko for her manners despite her tiny size. Our girl is just left standing there confused by the sudden praise. Both of them start wondering if they vibe so well because they are both bird demons. Phoenix thinks the little chick is adorable, but she is ready to lock in for the fight, even if it hurts her heart. The rules are simple and the duel starts as soon as the stone hits the dirt. Phoenix tosses the pebble, and the second it clicks against the ground, Hiyoko is ready for war. Our girl opens the round by firing off a massive water cannon. The stream sizzles as it hits the heat, creating a thick wall of steam across the crater. Getting wet does not scare a legend since everyone tries to use water magic against her. She reads the move instantly and stares through the mist to see what the tiny bird does next. A massive wave of fire answers the challenge. Hiyoko realizes she is dealing with a true fire master and scrambles to find a way through the heat. Instead of switching it up, Hiyoko doubles down and calls for a massive flood. Phoenix is actually surprised that the little bird is trying the exact same attribute again after getting countered. Phoenix expects a strategy shift after her fire countered the water. But our girl is playing by different rules. If she were a rational adult, she might have switched elements by now. Thinking is for people who aren't birds, and Chick finds tactical changes way too annoying. Her pure stubbornness won't let her back down now. She reminds Phoenix that she is still just a kid who treats every fight like a battle of endurance. A wall of water hits the field before the legend can even finish a sentence. A high-pressure water cannon follows as Phoenix begs for a break, but the hits just keep coming. One vortex later, the Firemaster is officially going for a swim. The water finally clears, leaving a very soggy Phoenix face down in the mud. The legendary Firebird looks like she just came out of a washing machine. Victory goes to the tiny bird as Phoenix admits defeat with her head spinning. Our MC is out here collecting crowns while the opponent struggles to stay conscious. Phoenix tries to play it cool with some advice about heat stroke despite being drained. Chick starts drying the area with some evaporate magic to clean up the mess. Chick feels a bit bad for the overkill and offers a quick apology. Phoenix just brushes it off, admitting that anything less wouldn't have stood a chance against her, even if she started the mess. Our girl isn't about to leave her opponent in the dirt. She drops a wave of healing magic on the legend, leaving the Firebird stunned by the holy energy. The realization finally clicks for Phoenix. She pieces the clues together and asks if the tiny bird is actually the former Saintess everyone has been talking about. Phoenix introduces herself as one of the 4 heavenly kings in charge of the South. Turns out news travels fast when the Demon King spends all his free time bragging about his new favorite bird. The legend admits she thought Chick was just some random bird at first. Our MC just wonders if regular birds are out here taking strength tests on a daily basis. Phoenix is feeling fresh and even thanks her for fixing a nagging case of back pain. Chick is just processing the fact that legendary Firebirds deal with the same old people problems as everyone else. The conversation shifts to home when Phoenix asks if the Demon King actually knows where she went. Hiyoko casually admits he never asked, so she didn't feel the need to say anything. Phoenix hands over a letter for the king and asks for a special delivery. One head kiss later, our girl is officially on her way. A warm, tingly sensation spreads as Hiyoko begins to glow with light. She's still processing the fact that she just got a kiss from a legend. Phoenix watches her leave with a soft smile and calls her a lovely girl. She warns Chick to head home before her guardian starts to panic. One more round of hydration is mandatory before starting the long trek. Hiyoko waves her wings and chirps a grateful goodbye. Phoenix shouts a final warning to watch for any loose rocks. Even a powerhouse needs to make sure she doesn't trip on the way down. As she makes her way down the volcano, Chick feels a gentle warmth watching over her from the summit. That protective presence stays with her all the way to the mountain base. The guards are hyped to see the tiny hero return to the castle gates. The Demon King is waiting to scoop her up, clearly relieved that his favorite bird is safe. Hiyoko is literally glowing after getting the ultimate power-up. This is exactly how the Demon King sees his favorite bird, through those doting dad goggles. The king hears about the trip to see Phoenix and Hiyoko brags about winning their fight. After a quick head pat, he asks if she really received the legendary blessing. This blessing makes her practically immortal against injuries and poison. It even cranks up her fire magic to a level most demons can only dream of. Hiyoko is just vibing in the palm of his hand. While he explains how rare this power is, she thinks the whole situation is pretty amazing. The king wonders if his cute bird is actually a secret battle junkie. He takes a seat on the couch and checks to see if she got any injuries during the duel. He asks if the pain was enough to make her cry, but Hiyoko insists she is way too tough for that. He just wants her to tell him where she is going before she leaves the castle next time. She suddenly remembers she has a special delivery. She reaches into her subspace storage and pulls out the letter Phoenix wrote for the king. The king cracks open the letter and things start off pretty wholesome. Phoenix mentions how a lovely little chick dropped by while she was on vacation. Then the vibe shifts. Phoenix starts roasting him for being a negligent guardian and letting the kid wander into a volcano solo without even asking where she was going. It all starts to click for the king. He knows Phoenix has zero chill when her vacation gets interrupted, and this letter is definitely a formal protest. Even with all that heat, he can tell Phoenix actually likes the kid. You do not just hand out legendary blessings to a random bird who ruins your tan. Cut to the next day, the king is busy prepping a massive apology basket filled with magic stones and high-end sweets to smooth things over. Hiyoko sees the hustle and decides she needs to contribute too. She is already trying to bolt so she can speedrun a dungeon and find some jewels. He has to physically hold her back before she causes another international incident. He tells her to just write a letter, then remembers she does not have hands. The king offers to ghostwrite the letter since Hiyoko lacks hands, but they find a way to get her message delivered. She manages to tuck her secret note right under Phoenix's chest feathers before heading back to the volcano. The next day at the volcano, Phoenix is checking out the premium apology haul the king sent over. She is vibing with the high-quality gifts until she spots a tiny extra envelope from the chick tucked in with the rest. She opens it up to find a page covered in ink footprints and finds the whole thing absolutely precious. Phoenix appreciates the massive effort that went into the bird's DIY writing, even if she has zero clue what it is actually trying to say. Back at the castle, the king is deep in his feels and second-guessing everything. He wonders if he should have just ghost-written the letter himself instead of letting a bird handle her own legal documents. Back at the castle for Chapter 6, Hiyoko waddles up to the Demon King and drops some big news. She is ready to head out and face the other 4 Heavenly Kings. The Demon King shut that plan down immediately. He tells her the 4 Heavenly Kings are all on vacation, so she has to stay at the castle today. She is a little bummed about missing out on the combat practice, but she accepts the situation. After a quick, okay, she hops right out of his hand. If she can't go outside, she'll just conquer the indoors. She announces her new plan to explore every inch of the castle. Our boy takes a moment to process the request. He finally gives the green light as long as she promises not to cause any chaos, which she agrees to instantly. The castle is massive, and Hiyoko realizes there is a lot of ground to cover. She gets moving with some serious attitude, offended that the king would even think she is a troublemaker. While wandering the halls, she runs into a maid carrying a fresh batch of dark flowers. She stops to say hello and starts wondering where she should head next. These flowers the maid is carrying come from the castle gardens. Since she has never visited that area, Hiyoko decides it is the perfect spot for her next stop. The garden is an incredible change of pace. It is filled with beautiful fountains and rare flowers from the human realm that smell amazing. She is seeing plants she never even knew existed. The garden is so vast that Hiyoko has no idea where it even ends. It dwarfs every royal garden she saw during her time as a human. As she explores, a voice calls out after spotting the tiny chick. Hiyoko trots all the way to the front gate to pay the legendary guard duo a visit. Ignis and Chris have officially traded their trauma for fanboy energy, welcoming her like a celebrity. Chris is already crouched and waiting, ready to give the little bird some long-awaited attention. Chris starts giving her head pats, and they are surprisingly high quality. Hiyoko decides to stick around for a bit before checking on the other guard. The conversation shifts to her name. The guards realize she is named Chick and start roasting the Demon King for his lack of creativity. They heard the name was actually a complete mistake. Apparently, the king was just repeating the word in his head until it accidentally became official. Chris asks why she is visiting while Ignis struggles to translate the bird talk. Elsewhere, the Demon King is trying to hide his reaction, so Hiyoko decides to keep her mouth shut to protect his reputation. Igni thinks she is just out for a casual stroll, and Hiyoko chirps back in total agreement. Chris smirks, realizing he hit the nail on the head while Igni gives him some rare credit. Since the little bird seems to have a thing for fighting, Chris suggests she checks out the training session for the Night Order. Hiyoko is definitely listening now. The mention of the Night Order rings a faint bell for Hiyoko, and she immediately chirps about heading out to watch them. Her sudden enthusiasm catches the guards by surprise, but Igni insists on one final cuddle before she officially flies the coop. Orbis handles the final goodbye as Hiyoko prepares to set off on her solo mission. She scurries across the castle grounds following a sharp ringing noise that catches her attention. Standing alone in the dirt, the rhythmic clashing of swords brings back a heavy wave of nostalgia. A knight stops training to wonder why a tiny bird is wandering through a dangerous combat zone. He does not realize he is looking at a walking natural disaster. The knights immediately wonder if this is the legendary familiar they heard about. They start to realize this is not just any regular bird. The realization finally hits. These knights are staring down the legendary Saintess herself. The training courtyard goes completely silent as they process the news. To them, she is not a cute mascot, but a terrifying monster in bird form. Our bowl-cut knight stands frozen while his comrades completely lose their minds in the background. The atmosphere is heavy. Looking back at all the friendly faces she met so far, Hiyoko realizes she is finally being treated like a former enemy. Panic mode officially activated. The knights start screaming for someone to grab the bird and chuck her before she starts shooting magic. Throwing a tiny chick feels wrong to our boy, but his squad insists she is just a monster wearing a bird's skin. Hiyoko just stares back with a blank expression while they roast her right to her face. He tries to smooth things over by shouting that they are just troubled, not angry. The guys in the back are not helping. They are convinced he is just making things worse. His comrades immediately throw him to the wolves to save their own skin. Left alone to deal with the fallout, the knight wonders if her chirping is actually a request for answers. A heavy boot slams onto the dirt, while a knight wonders if the little bird even gets the memo. He has a hunch she is lost. Enter the big boss. The knight commander demands to know why the training ground turned into a circus, and his men immediately start groveling. One of the knights spills the beans about the former Saintess showing up in bird form. The commander just stands there, processing the name like he just saw a ghost. This man is straight up malfunctioning. He is so traumatized that the squad has to form a human wall just to shield him from her cute little peeps. Turns out he faced the Saintess in battle more than anyone else, leaving him with permanent mental damage. His squad is just trying to be supportive at this point. The gears finally start turning in her tiny head. She has a major light bulb moment. Flashback mode activated. She finally remembers burning through their ranks back in her human days and casually peeps the news to the knight, who is flawed, she just now remembered. The squad is flawed that a tiny bird traumatized an entire army. They just stare in disbelief, realizing there's no logical way to process this reality. Proving she is a polite queen, Hiyoko drops a deep bow and peeps an apology. The guys are shocked to see she actually has some integrity left. Back in her human days, Hiyoko did not even trust her own king. She intentionally held back her power to avoid a body count, but clearly no one got the memo. The knights decide it is time for a vibe check to see if she is actually chill. Hiyoko is all for it, hoping she finally earns some respect. One soldier reaches out before losing his mind with fear. His buddies laugh while he treats a tiny poke like a life or death gamble. The mood shifts when Hiyoko starts getting antsy, and the knights immediately assume she is plotting world domination. She just gives them a judgmental side-eye for being dramatic. Rick goes in for the pets and discovers she is basically a fluffy cloud. He tries to share the cuteness with his commander, but the squad screams for him to keep that walking trauma far away. Rick is already planning the friendship arc since the bird technically has a clean record. He figures if she is officially part of the team now, they might as well move on from the past. The commander's brain is short-circuiting as he recalls the absolute nightmare of facing her human form in battle. Even with his squad playing wingman, the trauma of their old wars is still hitting way too hard. Rick is really out here suggesting a petting session as a form of peace treaty. The commander looks like he is fighting for his life, caught between his soldier pride and the insane pressure to be soft. The cute trap is officially set as Rick shoves the bird forward for a vibe check. The commander finally folds, admitting that the fluff factor is simply too high to ignore. A single touch changes everything, turning his fear into pure disbelief at how soft she actually is. Bro was terrified a second ago, but now he is just experiencing the ultimate fluffy cloud moment. He is completely lost in the sauce now, holding her like his entire worldview just shifted. The mission to reconcile has officially evolved into a full-blown obsession with the bird's vibes. The man is ready to risk it all and kidnap the bird before Rick brings him back to reality. Stealing the Demon King's favorite familiar is a one-way ticket to the afterlife, no matter how fluffy she is. Hiyoko tries to explain her presence, but the language barrier is hitting hard. The knights realize they are helpless without the Demon King playing translator. Since chirping isn't working, she starts carving a message into the dirt. The knights watch in silence, trying to figure out if she is planning a massacre or a peace treaty. Her floor writing finally gets the point across. The crew in the back is just happy she isn't throwing hands yet. The commander finds his courage and asks if she just wants to watch. He even floats the idea of her joining in as a training partner. Sparring actually sounds like a fun way to pass the time. She still worries that her presence might be a bit too much for their fragile mental states. Back in the human world, training was a no-go for her. She scratches out a reply saying either option is fine, which immediately sets the squad off. Instead of running for cover, the knights are actually thrilled to train with her. Their positive reaction catches her off guard. He reads her mind like a book and calls out her rude thoughts on the spot. She flinches in guilt before he just lets out a smug chuckle. Crouching down to her level, he makes it official. He asks if she will take them on as a trial training partner. She is hyped for the challenge. Her wings are itching for action and she is ready to show them what she can do. The squad is already sweating over the optics of this match, between the bad visuals and the resurfacing trauma. They are begging the boss to rethink the rules. Quick recap for the squad. Hiyoko is officially starting her training with the Demon Knight Order, and she is clearly not here to play games. The squad is going through a heavy moral crisis, struggling to reconcile her cute looks with her legendary past. She just tells them to quit the yapping and bring it on already. The commander decides to stop overthinking and plants a flag, making it official. If she wants to train, he is going to treat her like a real soldier. It is a standard capture the flag setup with a huge handicap. She has to defend the objective with zero offensive magic, relying strictly on her defense to take the win. This rule just makes her even more fired up, and she starts glowing with enough aura to make the boss second-guess everything. He ignores the heat and gets the timer ready. The commander gathers the squad for a final vibes check to see if they are actually ready to throw down. While most of the boys are hyped, one knight is already fighting for his life against his own trauma. The whistle officially kicks off the match as the knights charge in to secure the objective. Our little girl immediately unleashes a huge wave of power that stops the entire group in their tracks. She drops an absolute defense dome, instantly locking down the objective. It is a perfect sphere with 0 blind spots that glows blue every time it tanks a hit. She is absolutely vibing inside the barrier and calls it one of her favourite spells. The knights are horrified to see her smiling while tanking their attacks. Even a simple defensive wall is enough to give them instant war flashbacks, and she finally realizes just how much she traumatized these guys in her past life. She is literally wiggling because holding back her offensive magic is such a struggle. The boys are starting to realize how scary she actually is. Time for some crowd control. She whips up a windstorm that keeps the entire perimeter clear. Keeping her distance is the move, since getting mobbed by a bunch of giants in this tiny body is a hard pass. The knights are losing it on the sidelines, shouting about how they can't even touch her while she struts through the zone like a boss. The commander finally loses his patience and leads the charge himself. He lunges in with a massive war cry. This view brings back some heavy memories from her human days. The commander is the type who lives for the brawl. Getting cornered by him is a recipe for disaster. Her magic is not holding up as well as she hoped. He is shredding through multiple layers of her defense like they are made of paper. Even the big boss has to give her props for being so durable. While he is running his mouth, the ground decides to check out. She slams the door on him and leaves him buried. The rest of the guys are losing their cool now that their leader is out of the picture. Now she is just putting the whole squad on ice. Pitts, Frost, and a massive tornado have the entire group reconsidering their career choices. Something is moving where it should not be. The earth explodes as a figure comes charging back into the light. He managed to tunnel under her absolute defense to get inside the guard. It was such a close call that she almost broke the rules and fired back out of instinct. The bell finally rings, signaling the end of the session. The flag remains perfectly safe under her magical dome while the knights try to catch their breath. Hiyoko hits a victory dance and lets out some smug peeps. Watching her celebrate makes the boys feel like she is just styling on them. She keeps tilting her head and looking around like a curious puffball. The squad quickly forgets about the loss and starts gushing over how cute she is. Nick introduces himself and his brothers, Dick and Rick, while giving our girl a much-deserved head pat. Meet the newest members of the fan club. The boys take 5 while Rick continues the petting session. They admit that even with their combined strength, they could not even touch the objective. Looking back on the war, they realize her tactical genius made victory impossible from the start. The conversation shifts to what a real fight without rules or time limits would look like. Suddenly, the commander goes flying through the air like a human rocket. Hiyoko stares as her opponent is suddenly launched into orbit. The boys just shrug it off as a bad habit they have seen 1,000 times. The squad explains that once their commander goes into beast mode, there's no stopping him until he is satisfied. He is a walking trauma factory who makes the Saintess look like a total amateur. The only way to snap him out of it is a quick knockout, but nobody in the Knight Order is strong enough to handle it. They are stuck in a total stalemate until they realize the solution is literally sitting in the palm of their hand. Rick reminds them that Hiyoko spent years putting the commander to sleep back on the battlefield. She casually launches a tiny tornado that sends the big guy flying through the air. The knights are beyond grateful for her help in taming their boss. Back at the castle, our girl tries to explain the absolute chaos of the training session to the Demon King. The king finally understands why his favorite bird was so late coming back home. He pulls out a fresh petition from the knights asking to hire her as the official commander stopper. He mentions they also want her as a regular training partner, which catches her off guard. But once she hears the pay is actually decent, our girl is immediately on board for the job. The king points out that for someone who was just complaining, she sure has warmed up to those knights. He agrees to send over her official acceptance letter to the squad. Bro points out that the commander is still suffering from a major case of trauma after being folded by a bird. Hiyoko just peeps along while sitting on the couch next to her favorite demon. He tells her there is no need to rush into making friends with the squad, since they have plenty of time. Our girl chirps in agreement, basically saying the commander brought all this stress on himself. The king warns her not to get too attached, especially not to start looking at other guys as a parent bird. Hiyoko realizes making a name for herself here might be a longer journey than she expected. Bro casually jokes about firing the commander just to keep his own spot safe. Hiyoko thinks he is being a bit of a tyrant, but she is fine with him being her main parent bird for now. Seeing him in such a good mood starts to shift her perspective on the demon ruler. He just gives her a quiet look and questions if her view of him really changed that much. He gives the green light for her to train the Night Order however she sees fit. He wants those fake heroes who abandoned her to realize exactly what kind of monster they are up against. Since the king gave his blessing, she is ready to whip these knights into shape with everything she has. She still has quite a few scores to settle with the humans back home. The Demon King explains that training the Knight Order is the quickest way to keep his men alive. He knows they could easily stomp the hero party now that she is on their side, and our girl chirps in agreement. He admits that if they are going to win anyway, they might as well aim for an overwhelming victory. Since staying up late is bad for a kid's growth, he decides it is officially bedtime for the little bird. He sets her down in a comfy basket and wishes her a good night, with our girl chirping back a sleepy farewell. Tucked into her bed, she realizes there is a much faster way to end this war than just training the knights. She could just go and fight the hero herself, but being discovered as still alive would be a total drag. The next morning, the Knight Commander nearly jumps out of his skin when he sees the king at the training grounds. Bro explains he is just there to represent the bird as her official guardian, though our MC is wondering why he decided to tag along. The king starts teasing them by asking if he is intruding, making the poor commander sweat buckets as he tries to keep it professional. He even has the audacity to say he is only there as her guardian, though his vibes are anything but casual. He even brings up the fact that her mental age took a hit when she changed forms. It is basically a nice way of telling them she's going to act like a bratty kid for a while. He asks them to watch over her with care, even if she causes a scene. Our MC is in the corner giving him a look that says she definitely did not sign up for this babysitting routine. The commander salutes with enough force to break a bone while internally dying from the pressure. He is convinced the king is giving him the death stare because of some hidden jealousy over his previous pets. He tries to play it cool by complimenting how well they get along, but Hiyoko is not feeling it. She chirps out a cold denial that leaves the king wondering why his own familiar is treating him like a stranger. The king plays it off as a master and familiar bond before officially handing her over to the squad. The commander takes her into his hands and promises to keep the little fluff ball safe and sound. With a final nod, the king turns his back and leaves the training grounds to the professionals, left alone with the bird. The commander immediately apologizes for his complete mental breakdown the day before. The commander says he is counting on her despite any future trouble. Hiyoko chirps a quick response before heading off to her next task. Zebes and the king stay behind to start calculating the property damage. 1 hour later, the training grounds are covered in cracks with a massive crater in the wall. The Demon King asks the knights what happened while he was gone. He realizes Hiyoko probably went a bit too hard on her new training partners. Our boy scoops up the bird and admits he expected her to break something eventually. Hiyoko chirps an apology. She needs to start holding back those high-level power outputs. The king lays down the law as punishment for the property damage. The bird has to help the knights repair the garrison wall. She chirps back a polite yes sir to her new assignment. The Demon King walks off and tells the knights not to be scared of a tiny chick. Rick sits down and asks why they have to do all this construction by hand. Hiyoko wonders why they aren't just using a simple repair spell. It turns out the castle walls are made of magic-resistant materials that prevent simple spells from working. The only thing that can fix the damage is a combination of magic and raw physical force. Rick asks if there's any work a tiny bird can actually do on a construction site. Hiyoko takes that as a challenge and turns her beak into a high-speed jackhammer. The nails fly into the wood faster than any tool could ever manage. The knights are losing their minds over how hard Hiyoko is working, treating her like a little construction superstar. She plays it cool and lets the praise wash over her while she takes a well-earned break. The guys joke that she might end up a different color if she gets too close to the supplies. This gets her gears turning about a potential new look that would make her less bird-like. Rick looks around for his favorite fluff ball, but she is already one step ahead of him. She peers into a bucket of paint, wondering if a quick dip is all it takes to switch up her style. Before anyone can stop her, she takes a leap of faith right into the bucket. The knights let out a coordinated scream as their tiny mascot disappears into the paint. The Knight Commander brings our girl back to the castle after her little painting accident. The Demon King takes one look at her messy bottom and notes that she looks a bit different than when they last talked. The captain gives the full debrief on how Hiyoko decided to take a dive into a bucket of black paint. He is out here apologizing for the chaos, while flashbacks show him desperately trying to catch the tiny menace. The commander thinks a solid scolding is in order since she almost suffocated in the paint. The king is surprisingly chill about it, claiming it is normal for kids to be rowdy, leaving the knight wondering where his war trauma went. Bowing out of the room, the commander is still processing the fact that the Demon King has a soft side for fluffy birds. The king realizes the captain is finally starting to see Hiyoko as something other than the Saintess who once traumatized him. It is lecture time. The king makes it clear that the punishment is for being reckless rather than the prank itself, and our girl's soul practically leaves her body as they head toward the bathroom. Entering the Demon King's private bathroom, he starts rolling up his sleeves for some serious business. He tells Hiyoko to stop looking so miserable, but the vibes are definitely not in her favor. Bath time is officially here, and Hiyoko is losing her mind. She used to rely on cleaning magic to stay tidy, but but her bird instincts are screaming that water is the ultimate enemy. The king tells her to save the sympathy cries because magic cannot fix this mess. He slowly lowers her into the warm water to start the cleaning process. She braces for impact as she hits the water, but realizes it actually feels kind of nice. The king notices her mood shift and notes she finally looks comfortable. Time to level up the luxury with some premium soap. Our girl is shook when she realizes this is the same high-end stuff the king uses, wondering just how many gold coins this wash is costing. The scrubbing begins and she tries to apologize for the mess, but the king warns her to keep her beak shut, or the bubbles will get in. He is being surprisingly gentle with the cleanup. He admits he was prepared for a little trouble from his new familiar, but almost slips and calls her his pet. She catches the slip up but cannot really argue since she is being pampered like one right now. The bath is over and the drying process begins. He uses some magic and a small brush to get her feathers back in order, finishing the job with a quiet there. A giant ball of Fluff is born. She lets out a happy chirp to thank her parent bird, but the king just looks away with a quiet humph. The demon king gives her a gentle warning to stay out of trouble from now on, and she gives him a happy chirp in return. He is actually pretty impressed she remembered her manners after such a wild day. We take a quick trip back to see how this all started. From that day on, the Demon King took it upon himself to keep his favourite little bird squeaky clean. Meanwhile, things are looking very different in the human realm. At the Great Temple, a massive announcement is about to change everything. The hero party has finally returned from their long journey, but they did not bring back a victory. Instead, they delivered news that left the entire city in a state of shock. Rumours start flying instantly as everyone struggles to believe the Saintess is actually gone. The hero puts on a masterclass in acting, hanging his head in shame and claiming they just could not save her from the demon army. The crowd is totally falling for it, begging him not to blame himself for the tragedy. He keeps up the facade of the grieving leader, but one person in the crowd is not buying the performance for a second. This priestess has seen his true colours before and knows exactly what kind of snake he really is. He definitely underestimated her, thinking a low-level priest would not notice the mask slipping when he thinks no one is watching. This priestess is watching the hero like a hawk, wondering if there is a spell that could keep someone from ever eating again. She is definitely sensing some major red flags from the supposed savior. In her eyes, the Saintess was just a weak little insect who could not hold her own. She is totally over the fake mourning vibe. The rumours are already heating up in the streets because the logic just is not adding up. People cannot understand how the Saintess died after surviving countless battles with the Demon King army. The math just is not mathing, since it is impossible for the backline Saintess to be the only casualty while everyone else is perfectly fine. Our priestess starts wondering if the heroes used her as a scapegoat to save their own skins. Even if they did not off her directly, she knows something shady went down. Everyone remembers her as the gold standard of being humble and noble since she was a kid. The fact that the heroes made it back while she did not is leaving a sour taste in everyone's mouth. The priestess is not wasting any time and heads straight to the top for a private audience. She is ready to speak her truth and make sure the right people hear it. She bows down before His Holiness, keeping things professional while she waits for the go-ahead. The old man tells her to speak, and she is about to lay everything out on the table. She drops a massive truth bomb, warning him that the Saintess dying was actually a setup by the heroes. The old man shut her down instantly, telling her to stop talking crazy while she tried to protest. He insists the heroes are their only hope now, leaving the priestess to wonder if the Saintess is truly gone forever. Reality hits hard as he claims he felt her life slip away through the magic he had linked to her. After being told to just give up, she is left crushed while praying for a miracle. Desperate for answers, she questions why a kind soul was abandoned while a monster received the power of a hero. She is left weeping in the dark as she calls out to the heavens. The heavy silence is broken by a strange sound echoing through the hall. She hears a familiar chirp that definitely should not be there. Hiyoko is out here chirping up a storm over a girl passed out on the floor. She is totally dazed and can barely process why a bird is talking to her. Not getting a response fast enough, Hiyoko starts tugging on her cape to get her moving. The bird is on a mission, and she is just startled by the sudden energy. The girl is completely drained and admits she does not have the strength to even sit up. She just lies there while Hiyoko keeps trying to pull her along. This bird shows off that legendary strength by straight up dragging the girl across the stone floor. She is shocked that such a tiny chick is moving her like it is nothing. The Knight Commander shows up to see what the commotion is about. He warns Hiyoko that picking up random stuff is a one-way ticket to getting scolded by the king again. He stops mid-sentence once he realizes the girl on the floor is actually a human. The vibe shifts instantly as he stands over her with a serious look. He stares down at her and asks if she is a freshly fallen one. It looks like things just got a whole lot more complicated. Seeing Hiyoko's confusion, the Knight Commander explains that humans who just arrived in the demon realm are called freshly fallen. The bird just tilts its head with a confused chirp. He adds that even after a decade, a newcomer like Hiyoko is still basically a rookie. It is becoming pretty clear to the girl that these two can actually understand each other perfectly. The commander formally welcomes her to the demon realm. noting that her high intelligence and red eyes wouldn't fit anywhere else. The girl starts to realize that her old life is officially over. While the girl struggles with her missing memories, the commander hits her with some peak bluntness by telling her she straight up stinks. She recognizes his outfit and realizes she is dealing with a high-ranking official. He quickly tries to backtrack, explaining he just meant she smells like the holy god, not actual garbage. She is not exactly thrilled to hear her deity being called stinky. Seeing she is too weak to even stand, the commander questions why she is still on the floor. She admits she is completely out of juice. Ever since her little paint bucket stunt, Hiyoko notices the commander has completely lost his fear of her. He tells her it is time to move out as he prepares to carry their new guest. Hiyoko is having a major midlife crisis because even though she is a magical prodigy, the commander keeps treating her like a fragile little problem child. His vibe is apparently contagious, since all his subordinates now look at her like she is just some clumsy fluff ball. While she was busy pouting in the garden, she literally face-planted right into a random person lying on the ground. This kicks off a quick flashback to the moment she first discovered their mysterious guest. Seeing a blonde girl just passed out on the floor was already a red flag, but her outfit makes things way worse. Hiyoko recognizes those robes and realizes she is looking at a priestess from her old home. Our bird is not a fan of religious workers, mostly because her old bosses used to skip her meals and drag her into wars whenever she messed up. She decided the best move was to just intimidate this intruder before the flashback finally ends. Back in the present, a demon medic explains that falling into the demon realm is a rough transition for a former servant of the holy god. Since her body is straight up rejecting the local mana, she is going to need a lot of rest to recover. The girl offers a quiet thanks for being carried to safety, but the commander just brushes it off like it was no big deal. He stays behind to keep watch while the doctor leaves them to talk. Still a bit dazed, the girl asks where she is and starts apologizing for being such a burden. Hiyoko is still salty that her intimidation attempt completely failed, while the commander just wonders if the bird was trying to help after all. Blood drops the reality check that she is currently waking up in the Demon King's castle. After the initial shock wears off, he gives himself a proper introduction as the captain of the Demon Realm Knights. Confused bird noises fill the room as they try to communicate, but the peace is shattered by a sudden scream from the hallway. Looks like some poor soul just saw the bird and fainted on sight. We are picking up right where we left off with the priestess having a complete meltdown after seeing a demon knight in her room. She is currently screaming her lungs out because waking up in the demon castle was definitely not on her bucket list. Once the initial panic settles, she accepts her new reality as a fallen human and notices our favorite tiny bird checking on her. She actually has some manners and thanks the little chick for worrying about her safety. The castle doctor peeks through the curtains to see if his patient is still alive and kicking. He offers to bring the captain back in now that she is not actively dying from the local mana rejection. Hiyoko is low-key offended that she is not getting any credit for finding the girl first. While the bird is busy being salty, Captain Blood sneaks back into the room without making a single sound. Our girl bows her head and apologizes for the earlier screaming match, but Blood just brushes it off. He knows that humans usually find Demon Realm Knights terrifying, so he is not taking the insult personally. The captain tries to act like a cold professional while taking notes, but Hiyoko sees right through the mask. Our girl knows he is secretly a giant softie who cannot help but meddle in everyone else's business. It is finally time for the real talk, as Blood asks her to explain exactly why she fell to darkness. He needs the full story on how a priestess from the Holy City ended up abandoned in the middle of demon territory. She looks away and starts her story. I suppose it started when the Saintess passed away, she says. While the girl remembers hating the gods for failing to protect such a pure soul, Hiyoko is internally screaming that she is standing right there. Blood asks why they were so certain she died. That is because the Pope. She begins to explain. She claims the Pope used a specific spell as a death signal, making Hiyoko remember the binding magic he used to keep her from escaping. Regardless of the details, the human world has officially declared her dead. Hiyoko realizes her body reconstruction probably triggered the death signal, meaning she is legally gone. Hiyoko is stoked to finally enjoy life as a chick, but the priestess keeps pointing out how her death makes no sense. She starts wondering if she needs to handle the girl to keep her secret safe. The priestess is convinced the heroes forced the Saintess into a reckless role or used her as a scapegoat. In her eyes, she was just too noble and humble to ever say no to them. Hiyoko is fuming internally while the girl talks about how wonderful she used to be. Blood just gives her a deadpan stare from behind his notes. Her eyes sharpened with a cold, intense focus. She didn't hold back her rage toward the god who would ever grant a blessing to someone as unworthy as the hero. Blood is seriously debating whether to tell the truth and ruin the girl's image of the Saintess. Meanwhile, Hiyoko is just impressed the priestess noticed the hero was a total fraud. The girl prays for the pure and innocent Saintess who is definitely dead in her eyes. Hiyoko cannot stop shaking because the second-hand embarrassment is hitting way too hard. The Saintess is long gone, and the current bird form is a chaotic menace that lives for pranks and brawls. She is definitely not the noble lady everyone remembers. Blood decides to protect the girl's dreams and plays along, calling the Saintess a legendary rival. It is a bit awkward, but it keeps the peace for now. Watching someone mourn your own death while you're sitting 2 feet away is a top-tier weird experience. Hiyoko can only sit there and vibe with the awkwardness. Blood pulls out a notepad to finish his report and asks for her name. Keeping it simple, our girl introduces herself as Schwartz. While Schwartz worries about her future, Hiyoko's internal radar goes off. She definitely remembers hearing that name back during her days at the temple. Blood breaks the good news that she can stay in the demon realm indefinitely. He even promises that the castle will cover her food and housing until she can find a job. Flooded with relief, Schwartz lets out a massive sigh. She gives a deep bow of gratitude, ready to cooperate and make the most of her new life among the demons. She pivots the conversation to the mystery of falling to darkness. Even the commander has to admit his knowledge on deep mana lore is pretty limited. Schwartz describes the chilling sensation of her mana turning pitch black before she woke up. She wonders if that dark transformation is the real reason she ended up in the castle. Blood explains the summons was a rescue mission to get her out of the human realm before things got lethal. A mysterious figure adds that summoning landing spots are always a bit of a coin flip. The Demon King breaks down the local lore, explaining that falling to darkness happens in one of 2 ways. You either join the Demonkin, or you reject your holy god with everything you have. Confirming Schwartz took the path of rejection, he asks if she has any more questions. He quickly shifts back into pet owner mode, telling Hiyoko it is finally time to head home. Schwartz gives a polite bow of gratitude for all the help. The quiet atmosphere is shattered when Hiyoko suddenly takes a tumble and lets out a high-pitched scream. Still rubbing his ears from the noise, the king asks the bird what is on its mind. Hiyoko reminds him of his promise to help newcomers and offers to look after Schwartz herself. The king just laughs it off, poking the bird and asking how a tiny chick who cannot even take care of herself is going to babysit anyone. He tells her the captain has it covered, leaving Hiyoko chirping in protest. Since she will not drop the subject, he eventually caves to her demands. He gives Hiyoko the green light to take Schwartz on a castle tour tomorrow to find her a job. He warns her not to get in the way during the tour before calling it a night. Hiyoko chirps in agreement as he tells her that good little birds do not stay up late. The next morning arrives and Schwartz is ready to get to work. She looks down at the tiny bird in her hand, wondering why her little rescuer is tagging along for the tour. Staff members whisper about the bird being the captain's secret pet, but he quickly shuts those rumors down. He explains that since Hiyoko was the one who found her, she's going to assist with the job hunt. Blood hands over a map of the castle, along with a formal recommendation letter. He tells her he has too much work to accompany her, noting the disappointed look on her face. He waves goodbye, leaving the tour in the hands of the tiny bird. Since he has night duties to attend to, he trusts Hiyoko to handle the babysitting for the day. Schwartz walks through the unfamiliar halls, feeling the weight of being in a strange land. She realizes the bird might be more mature than it looks as they reach their first destination. They arrive at the kitchen where the staff is hyped to see their favorite tiny guest. Hiyoko chirps a polite greeting as she hops right into a custom-made egg carton. The chefs give her a warm welcome, revealing that rumors about the rare newcomer have already spread. Schwartz is a bit overwhelmed by how fast news travels around the castle. Schwartz watches the crew treat the bird like a celebrity in its own egg carton. She has never seen a chick with this much personality. The head chef hands over a potato to put her skills to the test. He wants to see if she can handle the prep work without using a single drop of magic. She puts on her apron and gets ready to work. Fine magic control was never her strong suit anyway. Things go south immediately. The kitchen turns into a scene of carnage as the chef screams about the blood splattering everywhere. Her hands end up covered in bandages as she gets fired on the spot. The chef wishes her luck elsewhere, while Hiyoko secretly uses her magic to heal the cuts. Back in the hallway, Hiyoko tries to boost her spirits, but our girl admits she only became a priestess because she failed at every other job. Rejection is nothing new to her. Hearing that she was turned down by every single shop in the past gives Hiyoko a very bad feeling. Our girl is a disaster when it comes to basic chores. From getting buried in laundry to smashing vases, she managed to fail every single task. The staff could not believe how someone could be this clumsy. Hiyoko tried to play it cool, but every department head gave her a firm rejection. Standing in the hall, things were getting awkward. Schwartz just took the loss with a smile while the bird stayed on her shoulder. Rejection did not even faze her. She just pulled out her map and asked Hiyoko for the next destination. The map was looking pretty empty since she had been kicked out of everywhere. Hiyoko pointed her toward the training grounds for one final attempt at a job. Rick greeted them with a smile, but the news of her failing everywhere was a mood killer. He offered to let her train with the squad, but she immediately tripped and ate dirt. Lying on the floor, she saw little chicks circling her head. She honestly thought she passed away after that hit, but she was just glad the birds were cute. The Demon King strolls onto the training grounds to check on the progress. Rick is already breaking a sweat, having no clue how to handle the situation. He asks how the job hunt is going for the newbie. Hiyoko quickly snitches that the girl is too clumsy for any position, but Schwartz just gives a flat rejection. Lying on the ground, Schwartz tries to defend her honor. She claims it is not lack of skill, just a complete lack of experience. Hiyoko is stunned when the girl seems to read its mind. Schwartz clarifies that she cannot actually understand bird language. She just knows exactly what that face is asking. Apparently, a lifetime of sucking up to people turned her into a master of reading the room. Sensing the atmosphere is basically her only survival skill. Since she is a total disaster at every standard job, the Demon King decides to take a different approach. If no role fits her, he will just build a new one from scratch. Rick is absolutely floored by the logic. He thinks it is a move only the highest authority in the demon realm could pull off. Holding the tiny bird in his palm, the Demon King suggests Schwartz become her official caretaker. He claims Hiyoko wanders off too much, though the staff is pretty sure he just made that roll up to replace the lookout position on the fly. Schwartz jumps at the opportunity, promising to be the greatest lookout ever. The king is already convinced, noting that her ability to translate the bird's vibes makes her the perfect fit for the job. The contract is signed, making Schwartz the castle's first professional bird babysitter. She celebrates with sparkles and cheers, while Hiyoko chirps from the sidelines, still annoyed that everyone is getting her job title wrong. Schwartz introduces herself to the group with all the confidence of a new hire. She's officially the bird caretaker now, and Hiyoko is just along for the ride. She gives a deep bow to Zebes, who is already doting on the new arrival. He is happy to have someone polite around for once, especially compared to his grandson. The Chancellor asks her to look after the little one as they wrap up the introductions. Schwartz is all in, ready to prove she can handle the responsibility. Things get a little tense when the topic shifts to the ongoing feud between Zebes and Orbis. Hiyoko just sweats in the background, hoping the family drama ends soon. Zebes double-checks if the chick is heading to the Knights again today. After a quick goodbye, the duo sets off to start their training duties. Captain Blood meets them at the training wall with a friendly morning greeting. He is surprised they are already on the clock, but Hiyoko is always ready for action. Blood explains that Hiyoko will be handling the Knights while Schwartz keeps an eye on things. She is totally fine with a job that lets her space out while getting paid. The elite Knights are questioning the strategy of a 3-on-1 fight, but Hiyoko tells them to just bring it on. A massive wave of mana erupts as the real training begins. This isn't your average spellcasting session, as clashing mana requires releasing raw energy directly. Hiyoko focuses on her precision to perfectly balance the output against 3 opponents. The triplets are officially tapped out and hitting the floor. Schwartz checks to see if her partner is tired, but our girl is ready for more. The next round starts with Schwartz shouting for challengers, while the last group is sent to the corner. A little later, it's time for a much-needed water break. Schwartz serves up some tea to keep the little one's energy up. She's not exactly sure how bird biology works, but hydration is the top priority. The Knights think she looks cute while drinking, right before getting absolutely blasted across the courtyard. Even the captain is getting into the spirit as the hits keep coming. Our girl is handing out pro tips on how to land a one-hit knockout. Schwartz is just standing there wondering if the Knights are always this chaotic. Schwartz is actually digging the lively energy of her new home. When Rick asks if she is surprised, she admits this relaxed vibe suits her way better than the stuffy church. Our girl claims she only puts on a serious face for the aesthetic. In the background, the Knights are casually lugging the passed-out captain in a hammock, proving this workplace is maximum chill. She confesses that being a priestess was just a survival move, since she had nowhere else to go. Even so, her respect for the Saintess is the only thing that was ever real. Hiyoko is sweating bullets in the corner. She is practically praying that Schwartz stops staring at her before things get awkward. Watching the Knights gossip about her past life makes the bird realize her secret has to stay buried. Schwartz is just worried about hydration, asking if the little one has had enough to drink. Rick plays it cool after figuring out the secret, while Schwartz thanks Hiyoko for the job hookup. Everything is going smooth thanks to the king, and the new girl is finally finding her rhythm. The demon realm is turning out to be surprisingly warm and welcoming for the newcomers. Schwartz has officially taken a step forward, and it is time for the bird to brace herself for the next challenge. Our boy is buried in paperwork when the little bird starts demanding some attention on his desk. He puts his work on hold to see what is on her mind. She hits him with a deep question about whether he would prefer her to speak in a human voice. He pauses to tell her that while he would be happy, he has no complaints about her current state. He looks her in the eye and explains that he already understands her perfectly. To him, her chirps are more than enough to get the message across. Later that night, Hiyoko wanders the castle halls while reflecting on the king's kindness. She stops at a door and peeps until Schwartz wakes up to see what her little friend needs. Schwartz quickly realizes that the bird has something important on her mind. She reaches out a hand, and the two of them head off together to handle some unfinished business. When the sun comes up, the king finds his roommate still tucked away in her little bed. He teases her for being a sleepyhead, but she answers him with a cough and a weak chirp. He stands over her to check in, but the room suddenly goes quiet for a whole different reason. The bird looks him right in the face and greets him with a perfectly clear human voice. The Demon King was stunned when his little bird roommate actually answered his question. She chirped happily, explaining that she had spent the previous day getting some help from Zebes. He realized she had been sneaking around at night just to work on her speech. It turned out that her own subconscious was the only thing standing in the way of her human form. Zebes explained that they had hit a temporary wall with the transformation. For the time being able to talk was the limit of her power. Our boy was acting like a total girl dad while showering her with head pats. Hiyoko realized he was taking this whole protector role way too seriously. The news spread through the castle like wildfire after the king made his official announcement. While some demons were indifferent, the kitchen staff immediately started planning a celebratory feast. The knights were desperate to hear a single word from her, but the new caretaker was already feeling redundant. She worried her position was becoming meaningless after just one day. Hiyoko offered a tiny apology for making things awkward. They decided to tell everyone that learning to talk is just a normal part of growing up for birds in this world. Orbis is hyped to finally hear the bird talk and immediately offers her a tour of his treasure cave as a reward. The doting energy is clearly genetic, because Zebes is currently making the exact same play for her attention. Our girl isn't wasting any time and points out exactly which mountain of loot she wants to raid first. They arrive at a cave that looks like a total dump to a dragon, but she insists that junk is actually her favourite thing. This location is the ground zero for the legendary beef between Zebes and Orbis that started with a petty cycle of cave destruction. Since dragons have zero interest in broken junk, he makes her a generous offer. If you're cool with this place, I will give you the whole thing. Since dragons have no interest in broken stuff, Hiyoko manages to finesse her way into owning 2 entire treasure caves. Back at the castle, the Demon King is having a total crisis because he lost the race to give her the first present. Hiyoko is already snacking on some bird-sized treats, but she is not letting the Demon King off the hook just yet. She looks him right in the eye and asks what her real present is going to be. He does not miss a beat and snaps his fingers, announcing that her new bed is finally ready. A cloud of magic smoke erupts as he explains her old sleeping situation was way below her pay grade. Instead of a normal nest, he reveals a miniature mansion that is bigger than she is. Our girl cannot even handle the scale of it, peeping with pure excitement at her new home. The excitement is almost too much for her tiny heart to handle. She does a quick, happy dance and immediately asks for permission to storm the gates and move in. The inside is a bird-sized dream, complete with a tiny kitchen where everything is built to her height. She checks the plumbing and finds a fully functional faucet ready for her to use. After scouting the bathroom and the tiny living room, she finds the real treasure. She face plants into a massive, fluffy bed that is basically a cloud with a candy pillow. After checking out every room, she hops back into his palm to deliver a heartfelt thank you. Our boy is just happy. He finally outdid everyone else, giving her a gentle head pat as she peeps in content. Schwartz is stunned by the scale of the miniature mansion, but her brain immediately jumps to the price tag. Hiyoko is not having that energy and shuts down the money talk before it ruins the vibe. Schwartz offers a quick apology for being tactless, and Hiyoko accepts it with the grace of a tiny landlord. Since the mansion has a working kitchen, Schwartz suggests hosting a tea party. Our girl is already imagining herself living her best life as a sophisticated bird. The idea of a tea party is an instant hit, and Hiyoko is basically vibrating with excitement. Schwartz suggests making it a group event, knowing the whole castle would show up if the bird asked. Captain Blood is genuinely thankful for the bird's help in leveling up his knights during training. Even after a hard day of drill sergeant duty, Hiyoko still has enough gas in the tank to head out for a stroll. She finally makes it back to the Demon King, but she is looking absolutely drained. She face plants onto the table with a weak peep, showing that even legendary birds have their limits. Schwartz clocks out for the day, leaving the Demon King to check on his exhausted little guest. He notices her mana is running low and starts thinking of a way to help her recharge. The Demon King is a pro at doting, giving Hiyoko a high-level mana massage that has her seeing stars. She is living her best life, but she breaks the relaxation to drop a serious question on him. Cut to the courtyard where Captain Blood is impressed by how much the knights have improved. His subordinates are feeling the same vibe, but they start wondering how the war with the heroes is actually going. Back in the room, the Demon King is a bit caught off guard by the sudden topic. He casually mentions that the fighting is just business as usual on the front lines. Hiyoko points out that the top brass seem way too relaxed for a war zone. The king just shrugs it off, explaining that without the Saintess, the hero party is basically a joke that the border guards can handle alone. Our girl is low-key flexed on by that compliment, realizing just how much weight she carried in her past life. It gets her thinking about the bigger picture and how this war has been dragging on since forever. She hops back over to him to get the real tea. She wants to know why the two realms are even throwing hands in the first place, and the king is just surprised she is so curious all of a sudden. Starting off with the heavy hitters, our girl drops the ultimate question: why are the demon realm and the human world even fighting? The king warns her that it is a long story and asks if she is truly ready for the truth, but she is all in. He reveals the massive truth bomb that the entire invasion started because the core of their god, Lord Dusselbert, was stolen by the humans. Hiyoko is caught off guard by the name, realizing this classified history was definitely kept secret from the general public. The king explains that the holy god is the actual thief, and the human government has been hiding the truth for generations. When our girl asks for clarification, he explains that a core is the source of a god's power, and they are basically helpless without it. She wonders why a god would even need two cores, and the king admits a situation came up where one just was not enough. The lore takes a sharp turn into a soap opera, when the king reveals the holy god fell for a human. Our bird is losing it because the origin of a world war is basically just a bad romance. Turning human to grow old with her man would not be cheap. Unfortunately, her own divine power was not enough to pay the price for the transformation. Leaving the throne empty was not an option either, meaning she needed even more mana to craft a replacement god. Hiyoko summarizes the whole mess as a basic power grab. Lord Duzelbert gave her a hard pass when she asked for his core. Instead of accepting the rejection, the goddess played dirty and snatched it by force. That betrayal put the demon god into a deep sleep he still has not woken up from. Now the entire invasion is just a massive retrieval mission to get the heart of their boss back. Everything leads to the Great Temple at the center of the human world. This is where the goddess is currently hiding with the stolen goods. Recognizing the location immediately, Hiyoko realizes she used to live right there. To protect her stolen loot, the goddess shared her power with humans, creating the first generation of heroes. Our girl is confused because the math isn't mathing. Generations of heroes have already passed, but the king confirms the lover was just a regular human. Transitioning to a human life required a divine successor, which takes a century to prepare. The man died of old age long before the goddess could finish the job. Hiyoko is losing it over how out of touch this goddess was. How do you not account for human lifespans when you're a literal deity? She's already planning to vent about this to Schwartz later. The king keeps the lore coming. As for what the holy god did after that, our bird nearly jumps out of her feathers. They did something else too. It gets worse. She used the stolen core to try and bring her dead boyfriend back to life. Is that even possible? Naturally, it is not. Resurrection was a fail, but the man's body absorbed the core. Now he's stuck in a state where he never decays. The core is currently stuck inside that man's body at the Great Temple. The king finishes his story and gives our girl a little head pat. You did well to listen until the end. Good girl. Our bird is having an internal crisis over the king's recent lore drop. She realizes the holy god is the actual one-sided villain in this story, but humans will blindly follow any divine order she gives. The king points out that the names for these gods should probably be swapped at this point. Hiyoko's brain is reeling from the truth bomb, leaving her with major spiral eyes. Fast forward to the next morning, and it looks like the secrets were too much for her tiny body to handle. Our MC is out for the count with some serious stress-induced symptoms. The king is in full panic mode because his favorite bird just caught a fever. He starts asking Schwartz for parenting advice since he has zero experience with a sick chick. He is spiraling so hard, he's convinced she might die, even though she has a divine phoenix blessing. Zebes has to step in and tell him to get a grip before he loses it. Schwartz asks if anything happened yesterday to cause this sudden collapse. The king awkwardly admits he might have unloaded too much historical trauma on her during their chat. They conclude she's suffering from a case of a nervous fever from overthinking. Zebes suggests letting her sleep it off while the king realizes his lore dump was that devastating. The king is panicking over a simple fever, but his staff is way too relaxed. Turns out they have plenty of experience with kids, so they're not even breaking a sweat. Work waits for no one, even for the Demon King. He leaves Hiyoko to rest in a basket before heading out to handle his royal duties. Schwartz is a bit jumpy being in the king's personal room, but she focuses on her patient. Hiyoko is still wide awake and burning up more than usual. Schwartz wonders what kind of news could be so shocking it causes a physical collapse. Our girl is internally vibrating because she is dying to spill all the tea. The lore drop hits Schwartz like a truck. Learning the truth about the holy god makes her look just as sick as the bird. Hiyoko offers her a sick day, seeing how hard she is spiraling. Schwartz just sits there, completely stunned by the revelation. She is physically fine, but her soul took a critical hit. It is hard to process that the goddess she worshipped was actually just a self-centered girl blinded by love. Schwartz laughs off the world-ending secrets like they are nothing. She claims her soul is already too dark to care, leaving Hiyoko completely stunned that a human knows more demon lore than she does. Schwartz calls her a total baby for being this weak. Hiyoko cannot even argue because the fever is making her feel like a robot running on low battery. A couple of gentle pats are all it takes. Schwartz whispers a soft goodnight as she finishes tucking the bird in for the night. The cozy vibe is a total trap. Sleepiness is back at a full sprint, and Hiyoko is officially out for the count. Several hours fly by before the king finally checks back in. He immediately asks for an update on his favorite bird. Schwartz is happy to report that the fever is a thing of the past after they both had a solid nap. The king is a major softie at heart. He scoops her up with the gentlest hands, making Hiyoko wonder if she just received her first bird hug. Schwartz is judging hard while Hiyoko announces she is ready for a walk. The king shuts that dream down instantly. Safety first, as he bans her from leaving the castle until she is fully recovered. He is not taking any chances with her health. Hiyoko suggests a casual bedroom spa, but Schwartz values her life too much for that. She tells the muscle-brained bird to chill. A peaceful tea brewing lesson sounds much better to the caretaker. The king just wants to know if a nap was ever an option. Mentioning a tea party immediately summons the star eyes. Schwartz brings up the housewarming they missed, and the hype becomes unstoppable. Our MC has a wholesome bribe ready for her favourite demon. She promises to have a fresh cup of tea waiting the second he gets back from work. Realising his schedule has been hijacked by a bird and a girl, the king accepts the loss. He decides to just let them have their fun. The king heads out to handle some actual work, leaving the girls in charge of his personal kitchen. Schwartz is all fired up to start their tea brewing mission, but Hiyoko is already hitting a wall. The massive cookbook on the table is basically a whole continent away from our tiny MC. A quick poof of magic solves the size problem as she shrinks the book down to a bird-friendly scale. While she is at it, she promises to brew a special cup just for Schwartz. Her caretaker is definitely feeling the love after such a thoughtful gesture. Brewing is a total success, and it is finally time for a tiny tea break. Hiyoko spots some professional-looking snacks and correctly guesses they came from the castle's heavy hitter in the kitchen. The head chef really went all out for his favourite bird. One bite is all it takes for Schwartz to declare these the best cookies of all time. Hiyoko decides right then and there to draft the head chef for their upcoming tea party. The man is already on board, promising to handle everything. The king checks back in later that evening and immediately asks how the tea experiment went. Hiyoko has a very smug look on her face as she gets ready to spill the tea, literally. She claims she did such a good job that there is zero need for further practice. The king is shook when he realizes this means he doesn't get a sample cup today. Our girl really just flexed her way out of making him a drink. The next morning, it is time to handle the guest list for the big event. Hiyoko asks if Schwartz even knows how to write, which earns her a very unamused look. Schwartz is really questioning how low her bird's opinion of her actually is. Schwartz sits down to handle the invites but knows the guests want that authentic bird energy. She figures everyone will be way happier if the star of the show writes them herself. She offers the quill to her tiny boss, not realizing our girl is actually a literacy pro. Hiyoko takes the challenge with a confident look, ready to show off her hidden skills. The result is a sheet covered in nothing but chaotic bird tracks. The king is left staring at the page like it is some ancient, uncrackable code. He is genuinely trying to decode the chicken scratch, but Schwartz tells him not to strain his brain. Our boy is locked in, refusing to believe it is just a mess of ink. Schwartz steps in as the official translator and reveals the bird actually wrote a very polite tea party invite. The king is stunned by the level of detail hidden in those footprints. Getting a gold star from the boss has Schwartz floating on cloud 9. She agrees to explain the bird tracks to all the guests so nobody misses the big event. Hiyoko keeps stomping more chaos into existence, but the king is just happy she is putting in the effort. He knows it will be a tragedy if no one showed up to her first party. Schwartz catches the king smiling at those bird tracks and starts having an internal crisis. Back in the human world, this man was a total nightmare, but here he's basically just a proud bird dad. The sheer temperature difference between the king's reputation and his actual vibe is enough to give Schwartz a cold. She bows out to start the deliveries, while the king mentions that Hiyoko is currently passed out from the hard labour of stomping on paper. Invite distribution is officially underway, and the castle staff is treating these bird tracks like holy relics. Even the head chef is caught in his feels as the invites reach every corner of the castle, while our girl Hiyoko catches some zizz in her tiny mansion. It is finally time for the tea party our girl works so hard to organise. The weather is perfect, and she is hyped to see that everyone she invited actually showed up. Rick is the first to give her a shout out for the invite. Orbis asks who managed to get there first, but it is no surprise that the big boss was already waiting. This dude definitely takes his role as a bird dad seriously. There is a bit of family drama in the air since Zebes and Orbis are currently beefing and refuse to sit together. Hiyoko just hopes they can settle their differences and make up eventually. With the guests settled, she officially kicks things off and invites everyone to enjoy the brew. The reviews are in, and it is a 5-star experience across the board. Everyone is losing it over how good the tea is, and Hiyoko is just soaking up all the praise. Rick is getting way too sentimental about how far she has come as a host. Our girl is just sitting there thinking about how she was a full-grown human person until very recently. The big boss tells her to stop overdoing the hospitality and actually eat something for herself. She realizes in this moment that the entire castle basically treats her like a newborn baby. Hiyoko watches the knights enjoy the party and gives a satisfied chirp. Seeing them happy makes all her effort as a host worth it. On the walk back from their usual route, Hiyoko gets a sudden spark of inspiration. She stops Schwartz in her tracks to reveal she just thought of something legendary. Hiyoko asks if they can take a quick detour before heading home. Schwartz has no idea what is coming as she follows the little bird into the woods. Back at the castle, Schwartz is completely drained and face down on the couch. The big boss steps in and demands Hiyoko apologize for whatever trouble she caused. Schwartz is a saint for forgiving her so easily, but the king is not letting them off that easy. He wants to know exactly where they went, but Hiyoko keeps her beak shut. Since Hiyoko told her to keep it a secret from the king, Schwartz is staying loyal and silent. Our bird just does not want to say anything yet in case her plan fails and things get awkward. The squad heads to the training grounds since it is the only place safe enough for things to explode. Hiyoko has all her lab equipment ready and is hyped to start her secret project. Hiyoko is locked in, convinced she can handle any challenge as long as she tries. She watches her ingredients march toward the lab table with absolute main character energy. Progress, a perfect drip into the flask has Schwartz questioning if this is actually a potion, but Hiyoko is already claiming the big win. The blue liquid looks tempting enough for a taste test until a clumsy move sends it spilling. Instead of a healing brew, she just invented a high-grade acid that eats right through the floor. Schwartz is losing her mind as the ground starts dissolving, which is a total L moment for the lab. Our bird is completely unfazed, still wondering if the sizzling floor juice is actually safe to drink. Schwartz goes full protective mum mode and snatches the bottle away. She knows the baby bird instinct to put everything in its mouth is way too strong to trust. Hiyoko takes offense to being called a toddler, arguing that no infant could speak this fluently. Schwartz isn't buying the logic and prepares to dispose of the dangerous chemicals. The rest of the afternoon is just a series of smoke clouds and epic fails. Even with her best effort, the perfect potion is just not happening today. Schwartz calls it a day and says it's time to head back, but Hiyoko is not moving. The disappointment from her failed experiment hits all at once and she lets the waterworks fly. Holding the tiny bird, Schwartz explains that making potions is high-level work that usually takes a pro. She does her best to stop the tears, but the bird is deep in her feelings about the failure. Schwartz is still trying to figure out the vibe when the Demon King suddenly spawns in. He looks down at his crying bird with a serious expression and demands to know what is going on. After hearing that the failed craft project caused the meltdown, the king steps in to handle things. He picks up the crying bird, giving her his full attention while the staff watches in the background. The king notices the setup and asks if she was really trying to brew a potion. He reaches for one of the bottles she managed to finish, completely ignoring the danger of the mystery liquid. He actually thinks the potion looks well made despite a few chaotic side effects. Without a second thought, he chugs the entire thing and starts glowing with an intense aura. Everyone expects a disaster, but the king just looks refreshed and touches his face. He claims his skin is feeling glossy and he feels decades younger, which was definitely not the intended effect. Schwartz looked on in shock, asking if the king was actually de-aging. He clarified that as a long-lived demon, his looks don't change, but Hiyoko really put her heart into this healing brew. Our tiny bird stood her ground, explaining this wasn't any ordinary medicine. It skips the surface-level stuff and goes straight to rejuvenating cells. A rare smile crossed the king's face as he called her a potion-making genius. He could feel the exhaustion melting away as the potion did its thing. Hiyoko celebrated her big win with some loud chirps while the staff stayed skeptical. The commander wondered if they just got lucky or if the king's body is just built different. The king mentioned she could make a fortune selling this to people chasing youth. Hiyoko was already planning her future riches, promising to buy him a retirement home once the checks cleared. Hiyoko announced she was definitely moving into the new house too, before quickly clarifying that the potion was meant for everyone. The gift was for her whole found family, not just her parent bird. It turns out the potion was a free gift, and that pure heart was too much for the king to handle. He started questioning his own morals for thinking of profit, though Schwartz was there to remind him that his greed was actually pretty normal. Schwartz drops a total masterclass in marketing. She suggests giving the potions to their inner circle for free while charging everyone else a premium fee. Hiyoko is shook by the business strategy and wonders if her caretaker is actually a hidden genius. The Knight Commander tries to slide in a bulk order for his squad right away. Hiyoko offers him the friend discount of $0 since they are close. He actually rejects the handout because the entire army will be using the supply. They settle on a special best friends price instead. A little head pat from the commander seals the business deal. The lab goggles come on as the duo starts some high-stakes chemistry. They find out the green brew makes you fast, light blue melts the floor, and the pink one just straight up explodes. It is a trial and error process with some very messy results. The Hiyoko laboratory is officially open for business under a tiny tent, with the king confirming the brew can heal any injury. The staff is lining up for their samples. Everyone loves the color-coded potions that come with extra surprise buffs. The king drops some major news about finding buyers, even for the weird side effect potions. Hiyoko is ready to start a factory line for the chaos brews, but he tells her to focus on the standard stuff for now. High quality and normal is the way to go. The knights go into a total panic when they think Hiyoko is about to sample her own supply. She tries to play it cool, but the whole squad is terrified for her safety. They aren't taking any chances with their tiny mascot getting hurt. The king is worried that Hiyoko will turn back into an egg if she drinks the potion. but she reminds him she was not even born from one. Testing eventually proves that diluting the drink makes it safe for her to enjoy without any de-aging side effects. Schwartz notes the final brew hits all the marks for healing and mana recovery. Hiyoko is already back in the lab with her goggles on, feeling motivated to work even harder on her secret plan. The king takes a moment to inspect the vial. Hiyoko is sweating buckets as she waits for the final verdict. He confirms the potion is flawless with 0 side effects. Our MC finally gets some serious recognition for all her hard work in the lab. Schwartz offers her congratulations before unrolling a massive list of orders. Hiyoko is immediately overwhelmed by the sheer length of the scroll. The first order is for over 1,000 potions, which is a massive demand. The king tells her not to stress, since it is mostly just to build up emergency stock. He tells her to work at her own pace and not to rush the process. When he asks if she can handle it, his supportive vibe makes it impossible for her to say no. Schwartz is losing it because the grind never stops. But Hiyoko is already ready for her next mission. The Demon King is more than happy to play along, promising to personally fetch all the rare materials she needs. Our tiny MC gets a little dramatic about her endless to-do list while imagining total chaos in the lab. The king just shrugs it off and suggests she starts using the knights as her personal delivery service. Schwartz tries to be the voice of reason and tells her to just chill out for a bit. Hiyoko is not hearing it though, because she is determined to drop a major surprise on the whole castle. The Hiyoko laboratory is officially in full swing under a tiny tent. The king admits that as long as she is busy with her potions, it is way easier for him to keep her out of trouble. Even a legendary bird needs a lunch break, so she demands snacks from her favorite caretaker. Schwartz realizes that no amount of magic can actually fix a burnt-out work ethic. It is Madeline time, and these aren't just any snacks. They are professional-grade treats from the head chef. Hiyoko is in total heaven, even if she is making a massive mess on Schwartz's lap. Fast forward 2 days later, and the tiny bird has finally hit a wall. She is slumped over her test tubes, proving that even a mana beast can't survive on pure vibes alone. The king is stunned by how fast she worked. "You're finished already?" he asks while looking at the huge pile of crates. Hiyoko just chirps back his name in response. He is clearly impressed by the hustle. Schwartz agrees it is impressive, while Hiyoko has a smug moment to herself. The king gives our MC some major recognition by calling her a genius and a hard worker. The potion-making marathon finally hits its first milestone. Schwartz is tired just from watching the work, but she still gives the bird some props for the grind. Schwartz wonders where the little bird gets all that energy. With the first batch done, our MC's secret master plan is shifting into high gear. Our little mascot is officially on duty, making her way through the castle with some serious cargo. She has her game face on while handling a high-stakes delivery. Rick flags her down for a quick favor, passing off a scroll destined for the top office. One subspace storage trick later, she is already checking in to announce her return. Inside the office, Zebes is settled in and ready for the next batch of work. Schwartz drops the news about more paperwork from Orbis, which immediately earns a salty response from the Prime Minister. This dragon drama is clearly on another level. Hiyoko realizes that trashing each other's treasure caves has left a grudge that is going to take a lot more than a simple apology to fix. Years ago, growing up in an orphanage gave her a deep appreciation for family bonds. Seeing these two powerful demons at each other's throats makes her wish they would just value the connection they have. Thinking she can finally bridge the gap, Hiyoko asks if a peace treaty is on the table. Zebes does not even blink before shutting that idea down with a total hard pass. The only way he is forgiving the rival dragon is if his cave gets restored to its original glory. Since restoration magic is a heavy lift that most demons can't handle, the beef stays active. Hiyoko is deep in thought about why dragons are so obsessed with their treasure caves. The king notices her staring off into space and asks what is up. He tells her to stop shaking her head before it falls off. He is convinced she's cooking up a new scheme and wants her to leak the details early for once. She gives him a hard no after a suspicious pause. If her plan flops, she doesn't want the cringe of him knowing she failed. The king tries to give a lecture on how adults are supposed to report their progress, but she isn't buying it. She secretly loves the hype of a surprise reveal too much to ruin it now. He calls her out on the huge stack of potions he saw Schwartz carrying earlier. Her heart skips a beat because that was definitely supposed to stay on the low. He just hits her with a smug smile. She realizes she was getting played and he was only teasing her the whole time. Taking this L lying down is not in her playbook. She hops off the desk to start her walk, leaving the king wondering what she has planned next. Hiyoko heads out for her walk and drops a casual goodbye. Calling him Papa on the way out sends the king into a daze. Schwartz enters the office and finds the king has turned into a statue. He is zoned out and does not even move when she asks what is wrong. It turns out he is stuck in a loop because she finally acknowledged him as a father figure. He stays unresponsive for several minutes as his brain tries to process the moment. Later that day, the bird returns with her battery on 0%. She is a deflated mess in Schwartz's hands, and the king is spiraling with worry. He immediately assumes someone tried to jump her in the castle. She just tells him that a regular attack would not even come close to making her this tired. Moving on, she asks if Zebes and Orbis are free tomorrow. The king finds the sudden request suspicious but agrees to help out. He tells her they can meet during their lunch break or after work. She just hits him with a quick confirmation as she prepares for the next phase. The next day, things get awkward immediately because neither Orbis nor Zebes knew the other was invited. Keeping them in the dark was a calculated move by our tiny MC. Zebes calls out the old man for being a pushover while they try to process the surprise reunion. Schwartz takes the lead and tells them to follow her. The two demons fall in line with 0 words, probably still feeling the weird vibes. At the cave entrance, they arrive at the spot Orbis gifted her, which Zebes famously trashed. Hiyoko just tells them to quit yapping and head inside. Zebes isn't exactly thrilled to revisit the scene of his crime, but Orbis is left speechless. The once destroyed room is now packed with perfectly restored treasures. The two demons are stunned as they look at the pristine collection. Hiyoko puffs out her chest with pride, letting them know she did all the heavy lifting to fix the place. It turns out those secret walks were actually grueling work trips to restore the caves. Using restoration magic at this level left the bird drained every single time. Schwartz shows off the recovery potions she used to pull off this massive restoration job. She tells the bird to take it easy, especially since the little one is currently running on empty. Zebes is stunned by the restoration, while Orbis immediately asks if his room got the same treatment. Once he gets the green light, he pulls a disappearing act to check on his own treasures. Orbis spreads his wings and takes off at full speed to see his fixed cave. Zebes can only sigh at his grandson's lack of manners, but Hiyoko tells him it is totally fine. Zebes gives the little one some well-deserved head pats as a reward for her hard work. He admits that fixing a whole treasure room is a pretty legendary feat. Zebes points out that she could basically retire on the profits from these vases. He is completely caught off guard when she tells him she plans on handing the keys right back to them. Our MC stays humble, insisting on returning the caves and treasures to the duo who originally owned them. She makes it clear that these rooms belong to him and Orbis. Zebes points out that they already gave the caves to her as a gift. Our MC doesn't budge, but she lets him know that this return comes with a specific price tag. Zebes asks what is on her mind. Our MC plays the Peacemaker card, asking for him and Orbis to finally put an end to their rivalry. She worries the task might be impossible after seeing them clash so many times. Zebes just laughs it off and says that settling the score will be a piece of cake. It turns out the beef was only about the destroyed caves. Now that the treasures are back, they have 0 reason to keep the fight going. Zebes tells her to double-check with his grandson, but Orbis is already on the same page. He admits that he is totally fine with moving on. Schwartz gives a heartfelt thank you, but our bird has already zoned out completely. She finds a cozy new spot to perch on the Demon King's shoulder. Back to work at the castle. Orbis walks in with the latest reports, and Zebes actually greets him with a friendly smile for once. The family is actually working together in peace. The king notices Hiyoko staring at them from his shoulder and explains she is just shocked the feud ended so quickly. The Demon King points out that Hiyoko only saw the toxic phase of Zebes and Orbis. Our bird just shrugs it off, admitting she actually vibes with how chill they have become. Orbis is low-key shocked by her reaction, but Zebes keeps it real. He mentions that some races are just cursed to stay enemies forever once things go south. Staring into the distance, Hiyoko wonders if he is talking about humans. It definitely explains why that trash hero did not hesitate to backstab her. Not letting the past ruin her mood, she starts nuzzling the Demon King until he laughs. Even Zebes and Orbis cannot help but smile at the wholesome scene as she admits she is totally over the drama. The castle staff is apparently loving the new piece, thanking Hiyoko for slashing their workload. Ever since the duo started talking again, everything has been running like clockwork. Schwartz notices Hiyoko has basically claimed the king's shoulder as her permanent throne. He does not seem to mind at all, finding the tiny bird's presence actually soothing. Being a house bird is not enough for our MC though. She is itching for some action and thinks it might be time to pull up to the Phoenix's dojo for a real challenge. Hiyoko is curious about the castle's top brass, asking if the 4 heavenly kings are finally done with their long vacation. The Demon King just shrugs, explaining that since demons live for centuries, their PTO is on a completely different scale. He suggests she wouldn't like her own nap interrupted, so Hiyoko agrees it is best to let those sleeping monsters lie. As he prepares to leave, our bird wonders if the king is actually heading out on official business. It turns out she was getting played, realizing much later that he was just deflecting to keep her away from the elite squad. He mentions heading to the Temple of Lord Dusselbert, but Hiyoko refuses to stay behind, even if it is a boring trip. She is starting to realize her tiny body is making her mind feel a lot more childish than she would like to admit. The king asks Schwartz for her plans, but she is already in full vacation mode. Sipping her tea with a grin, she asks to just stay behind and house sit since the boss has everything covered. It is a straight up move to slack off while the others handle the heavy lifting. With the plan set, the duo heads for the door. Hiyoko lets out a tiny peep from her favorite shoulder perch as the king announces they are off. Schwartz just waves them goodbye, wishing them a safe trip while she settles in for some serious sofa time. We have finally arrived at the temple of the evil god Dusselbert. The teleportation magic fades as the Demon King and his tiny companion step into the wide hall. The scale of the place is overwhelming. Even Hiyoko feels the weight of the sacred atmosphere as they walk through the pillared corridors. This is where the god rests, the king says with a solemn look. It is a quiet place meant for reflection and honoring their fallen deity. Hiyoko notices a collection of items piled at the altar and asks if they are offerings. The king confirms it, pulling out a very familiar-looking bottle from his cloak to add to the pile. He casually places one of Hiyoko's potions among the fruit and gifts. Our boy really thinks her brew is so high quality it could even work on a deity. Hiyoko is not so sure about that, but it is hard to tell when he is being serious because of his permanent straight face. She suddenly notices something odd and focuses on the pile of gifts. Without warning, she launches herself off his shoulder and dives straight into the offerings. The king can only watch in confusion as his tiny guest lands face down and starts digging through the divine tributes. Hiyoko flattened herself against the altar, trying to catch that familiar vibe. She felt a nostalgic presence for a split second, but now it was too faint to be sure. Our boy was stunned. He scooped her up before she could roll around anymore, while she worried about getting in trouble for messing with the offerings. He didn't even look mad, just concerned. He thought his tiny guest might be coming down with a fever and decided to call it a day. Hiyoko let out a confused peep as she was whisked away. The king started walking, unaware that she was still trying to solve the mystery. It was time to head home. As they made their move, she couldn't help but look back at the shrine one last time. He noticed her staring and asked what was wrong. She just chirped that it was nothing, keeping her suspicions to herself for now. The temple hall felt endless as they walked away. She could have sworn that potion bottle looked empty, but maybe her eyes were just playing tricks on her. Our boy checks in on Hiyoko as they wrap up their day, asking if she is ready to head to bed. She chirps back that she is doing just fine while Schwartz relaxes nearby. Back at the castle, Schwartz gives the travelers a warm welcome and asks how their trip to the temple went. Hiyoko admits that the place had a divine atmosphere. Even with the holy vibes, our girl admits that the visit wasn't exactly what she would call fun. Schwartz just nods along, reminding her that a sacred temple is definitely not a playground. The king mentions that their deity isn't the sensitive type who would get mad over a little noise. Schwartz looks up from her seat, curious about how he could be so sure of that. It turns out the king used to have regular chats with Lord Dusselbert before his core was stolen. He describes a god who was chill enough to just wander around town aimlessly, without a care in the world. Hiyoko thinks he sounds like a gentle god before shifting the conversation to some serious business. She asks who would win a real fight between the Knight Order and the Hero Party. A victory is likely if the army uses its massive numbers to overwhelm the opposition. She realizes that even her former Saintess powers would have been crushed by that kind of military force. Hiyoko admits that Lord Dusselbert sounds like a genuinely gentle god. He even put a stop to military moves just to keep his people from becoming casualties in a war they might win. Thinking ahead, she realizes the deity's core is sitting in a human temple. If they can just sneak in, they might be able to get it back. The boss suddenly hunches over his desk with a look of pure distress. Schwartz notices the shift in the room and asks what happened. The king looks up with wide eyes and announces that a new oracle just descended. Without wasting a second, he orders Schwartz to gather the inner circle immediately. Our girl chirps out of concern, but he insists he is doing just fine. It has just been a while since he felt an oracle that rough, and the sudden impact took him by surprise. The message is clear. They have been ordered to go and retrieve Lord Dusselbert's core right away, leaving the inner circle stunned. The Knight Commander asks if the god's condition has taken a turn for the worse. The king shakes his head, noting that the deity just seemed unusually panicked this time. Hiyoko realizes that if a gentle god is finally rushing them, it must be a code red emergency. Orbis decides it is finally time to quit stalling and get serious about retrieving that core. Zebes agrees that a stealth mission would be ideal, but there is a major problem. That high-level barrier is a huge nuisance to deal with. The Human Realm Temple is locked behind a high-performance security system that automatically deletes any intruders. Hiyoko just tilts her head in confusion at the word barrier. Schwartz drops the ultimate truth bomb, revealing that Hiyoko was the one who built that barrier. The group freezes as they realize their bird friend is the reason they are locked out. Since the original creator is currently a bird in another realm, that legendary defense system is officially offline. Hiyoko realizes that right now, the front door to the temple is wide open. Orbis knows a golden opportunity when he sees one and suggests they sneak in. While the coast is clear, the king wasted zero time and ordered an immediate spy mission to get the job done. Schwartz strolls back into the room, just as the group is sweating over their secret heist plans. She asks if they finish talking, perfectly timing her entry to kill the serious vibe. Schwartz finally puts the pieces together and starts connecting the dots. She realizes the legendary Saintess she worships might actually be the tiny bird sitting right in front of her. The realization hits the rest of the crew like a truck as they all stare in disbelief. Schwartz scoops up the little fluff ball and asks why she was keeping such a huge secret, though Hiyoko tries to play it off with a cute little peep. Our girl was just trying to protect Schwartz's dreams, but the truth is finally out. Schwartz sits on the couch looking totally dazed, while Hiyoko just sags in her hand like a wet noodle. Orbis can barely handle the awkward vibe in the room anymore. The Knight Commander sees his chance and books it out of there, leaving everyone else to deal with the fallout while they scream at him for being a traitor. While the others are busy fighting, Hiyoko hops onto the king's hand and makes a bold move. She offers to be the one to head into the temple as their secret spy. The king is skeptical, but Hiyoko points out the obvious advantage. None of the demons have ever stepped foot inside that temple, but she knows every single corner of it. Our boy admits she has a point, but he is still worried a random bird wandering around a holy site might look a little sus. Hiyoko is already 2 steps ahead, bragging about all the secret paths and hidden rooms that only she can access. A blinding flash of light erupts from the Demon King's hand as Hiyoko initiates her transformation. She lets out a smug little chirp while the crew shields their eyes from the intense magical glow. The light clears to reveal a tiny blonde girl in a frilly blue dress standing where the bird once was. She strikes a proud pose and demands to know what they think of her new look. Hiyoko starts spinning in circles with glee to show off her outfit while sparkles fly everywhere. The demons are completely stunned, and Zebes asks if she finally managed to break the curse and return to her true human form. Our girl immediately corrects them with a bright smile. She explains that this is not her real body, but just a high-level magical disguise she created for the infiltration mission. She admits the spell worked a little too well, making her look like a toddler instead of a teenager. Her hair even turned bright yellow, which has the knights in the background whispering in total confusion. Hiyoko points out that a child is the perfect cover, since the temple is crawling with orphans and apprentices. In the back, Schwartz is getting emotional over how much the girl's face resembles her beloved Saintess. The Demon King finally speaks up from his seat on the couch. He reaches out his hands and quietly asks the little girl to come over to him. The king settles in with Hiyoko on his lap, giving her a gentle head pat while she sits there looking proud. He calls her cute, and she just gives a smug little fufun in response. Orbis asks if he is really going to let her go on this mission alone. Our boy just closes his eyes and keeps playing with her hair, lost in his own thoughts. He admits there is no point in trying to stop her, since she would probably just sneak out on her own anyway. Hiyoko just smiles and nods along, knowing he is totally right about her stubbornness. The Knight Commander steps up and declares they will prepare a full team to support her. He makes sure to give her a firm warning about not going off alone, and she gives a very casual okay in return. Schwartz is completely overwhelmed by how cute the little girl is, while the rest of the crew looks totally stressed out. The king does not seem to notice the chaos, still focused on how precious his guest looks. Everything is set for the trip to the human realm the very next morning. Late that night, the king carefully lifts the bird form Hiyoko and places her into her own tiny bed for some rest. Hiyoko can tell the king is quietly worried about her leaving. She looks up from her pillow and tells him not to stress, promising a quick trip and an even quicker return. The Demon King tries to lobby for a spot on the team, but Hiyoko is not having it. She tells him he needs to stay back and house sit like a good boy. Hiyoko announces she is hitting the hay early to prep for tomorrow. She gives the king a direct order to get some sleep too. The king agrees and settles in, not wanting to mess with her beauty sleep. He gives her a little poke and notes that her sleeping posture is definitely not bird-like. Hiyoko lets out a sleepy peep, and the king laughs as she slips back into her bird brain ways. While getting a cozy tummy rub, she finally drifts off. The sun is finally up and Hiyoko is already popping out of her bed like a warm marshmallow. It is officially the next day, and she is locked in for the mission. The Demon King greets her first thing in the morning and notices she is vibrating with energy. She starts flexing those tiny wings and claims she is in top form. Hiyoko is practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. The king tells her to chill out and save that energy since she is going to need it once they cross into enemy territory. She gives him a quick okay and hops straight into the palm of his hand. It is a clean landing as they prepare to head out. The vibe gets heavy as the king looks at her with a clouded expression. He thinks the old saying about sending your kids on a journey is wrong, because if you actually love someone, you would never let them go alone. He starts giving her some gentle head pats while he overthinks the situation. Hiyoko realizes he is stressing out because they are heading into enemy territory, where even the gods are hostile. The king just keeps petting her while they wait for the signal in silence. This quiet moment finally ends when a knock on the door tells them it is time to move out. Rick, Dick, and Nick step forward to introduce themselves as the support squad. These three are locked in and ready to back Chick up on the mission. The Demon King acts like a doting parent while wiping breakfast sauce off Chick's beak. He is convinced the triplets and their teamwork are the perfect picks for the job. Seeing the king go full girl dad is a total shock for the knights. They stand there with the exact same stunned faces while Chick just keeps peeping. The squad is ready to move at a moment's notice. The king gives one last check to see if our little bird is prepared for the trip. Chick chirps with excitement and wants to head out right away. There is zero hesitation from our tiny protagonist. A quick goodbye to the Demon King and the commander. The team is officially off on their mission. Teleportation magic flares and the group vanishes in an instant. The Demon King reaches out with a shout as Chick disappears into the unknown. The king realized a little too late that he missed his chance to say goodbye to Schwartz. Thinking ahead, he figured he would just combine his greeting and farewell once he made it back. The commander asked if he expected Chick to just vanish into a teleportation circle like that. Both of them watched the lingering magical energy while processing the sudden exit. Our boy admitted that he had zero clue she could even do that. Rarely do we see the Demon King look this stunned. Cut to the other side where Hiyoko already swapped into her apprentice priest disguise. The tiny blonde looks like a little angel while showing off her new outfit to the squad. One of the knights double-checked their location because everything happened so fast. Checking the map, Hiyoko told him they were already parked right next to the enemy temple. The squad was a mess, with everyone having a different reaction. Seeing the chaos, Hiyoko noticed the triplets were failing the vibe check by not being in sync. Enough talk because it was finally time to move. With a shared goal, they raised their fists and officially started the mission. The plan is simple. Chick is going to carry the entire squad in her shadow since a lone kid is way less suspicious than a pack of knights. They all hop into the darkness and get ready to move when she gives the signal. Inside the temple, the vibe is already different. Our girl is keeping a close eye on the surroundings while thinking about making the knights repeat their shadow trick later. Her old high-level barrier is gone. In its place is a cheap token version that looks like a joke to someone with her skills. She doesn't even break a sweat. One quick move and she neutralizes the security like it was never there. Stage 1 complete. She's inside the enemy temple and ready to start the real mission. The walls are covered in magic circles that make using top-tier spells a struggle. She wants to go invisible, but the environment is working against her. Saving mana is the top priority since the holy god might try to crash the party later. As long as her shape-shifting magic holds, she can keep moving toward the core. Blending in as a tiny apprentice, she keeps it low-key as she passes through the halls. She gives a quick nod to a priest, feeling 100% confident in her disguise. Hiyoko strolls through the halls, knowing no one would suspect a child apprentice unless they were paranoid or just absolute human trash. Her mind flashes back to the scummy person who slashed her in the back in her past life. Then she realizes she completely forgot something. Reaching the main shrine, that heavy presence from before starts getting way too close for comfort. Something is definitely moving in the shadows. The core is sitting right underground in the center of the temple. Just as she starts planning her move, a voice interrupts her thoughts to ask who the new kid is. That voice is way too familiar and gives her the instant ick. A silhouette steps into the light, mocking her for wandering into the main shrine. The person she never wanted to see again is standing right there. It is the hero, and he looks just as smug as the day he betrayed her. Thinking fast, she plays the role of a clueless apprentice who just started her job. While she keeps a smile on her face, she is clenching her fist under her cloak with pure rage. The hero tries to be petty by giving her fake directions to the cleaning supplies. Hiyoko sees right through the trap, remembering that this dude has always been a total snake. She tries to keep her cool with a polite bow, but her real feelings leak out for a split second. He catches that look of pure disgust and hits her with a smug comment about her expression. He starts getting suspicious, wondering why a supposedly clueless apprentice has such a high guard. Hiyoko drops a massive sigh while he mocks her for not being as dumb as she looks. Growing tired of the games, the hero reaches out to snatch her up. He tells her she is way too shady and threatens to drag her straight to the temple guards. Before he can even make contact, she slaps his hand away with a loud crack. She knows that getting caught by security would end her mission, so playing the victim is no longer an option. As he stands there stunned, she decides to go on the offensive. Magic surges through her tiny limbs as she charges up a physical enhancement spell for a surprise attack. She lets it rip with a brutal kick aimed right at his head. The legendary hero never saw it coming, getting absolutely folded by a toddler in a frilly dress. He goes flying down the hallway after that brutal hit. Our boy slams into the pillar with enough force to leave a dent, cursing under his breath as he tries to process what just happened. No time for a break because she is already summoning ice shards to finish the job. She figures a hero should not go down that easily, so she peppers him with projectiles until he is face down on the floor. Looking down at the wreckage, she admits the ice might have been a bit overkill, but at least he is still breathing. Since he is out cold, she starts dragging him away like a sack of potatoes. She even takes the time to shatter his holy sword into dust, tossing the remains away since she has zero use for trash. Tossed right out the window and into the bushes. As she turns around to leave, she finds an old man shaking on the floor, terrified by the toddler who just folded a legendary hero. Realizing there was a witness to her gardening project, she wonders just how much the old man saw, especially since she just dumped the hero into the flower bed like common trash. A quick rub of the temples as she tries to keep her cool. Between the bad tea and the annoyance of being back here, she feels herself getting way more aggressive than usual. The old man is surprisingly chill about the hero getting folded. He admits the guy was a major liability with zero morals, so he is basically thanking her for the help. He decides to ignore her attempt to bury the hero in the flower bed. Hiyoko just sighs, relieved that he only caught the tail end of her garden work. Rumors are already swirling that the hero might have eliminated the previous Saintess. Since the position is vacant, he asks if she wants to take over the job. He treats the offer like a huge honor, but our girl just stares back with zero expression. She is definitely not impressed by the promotion. This dude is way sharper than he lets on. He knows the hero is a fraud and is ready to swap him out for someone with actual talent. A core memory from her past life suddenly resurfaces. She remembers being blindfolded and led into the depths of the temple for her original succession ceremony. Only His Holiness was allowed into that secret room. She recalls a strange altar and a giant box that she now understands was actually a coffin. He explains that the core should be inside the coffin of the goddess's favorite person. Hiyoko casually accepts the Saintess gig, leaving the old man absolutely stunned. Walking into the deep room, she feels the vibe shift and shoots a look back. She wonders if the old man actually thinks she's going to betray him. The old man is hyped to officially name her the Saintess and rushes into the ceremony. As she approaches the altar, thorny vines start appearing and she realizes things just got weird. Massive thorny vines hang from the ceiling, wrapping around a glowing figure under the stained glass. This is a huge display of power in the middle of the temple. They go deeper into the temple, following stone stairs and dark tunnels to the secret basement. Hiyoko stays quiet and focused, letting the old official lead her toward the inner sanctum. They enter a large chamber where a white and gold stone box sits in the middle of the floor. Hiyoko rubs her eyes while looking at it, figuring out that this ritual altar is definitely just a coffin. The old official drops to his knees to start the prayer, asking his deity to accept this new child. Hiyoko follows along and kneels beside him, maintaining her disguise as a devoted apprentice. A sudden burst of white light fills the room as a divine presence begins to appear over the altar. This light show is way more intense than the previous ceremony, leaving Hiyoko a bit surprised. A beautiful woman with long hair and a flower crown emerges from the glow, looking down at them. She looks completely bored and asks Hiyoko if she decided to come back for more. Hiyoko is frozen by the question, since it means her secret identity was exposed instantly. The goddess is clearly seeing right through the magical disguise and knows exactly who is standing there. The deity leans in, mentioning that Hiyoko reeks of the demon realm now. She casually asks if our girl came back to try and reclaim the core that was stolen. Hiyoko immediately started sweating as she realized her entire plan was exposed. If the deity already knows why she is here, the mission is basically a disaster in the making. She braced herself for the worst, fully prepared to take on a god if it meant survival. Even while looking like a tiny toddler, she was not about to let anyone push her around. The goddess just let out a massive sigh and dropped her guard completely. She stated that she had no interest in fighting a battle she already knew she would lose. Our girl was left scratching her head as the goddess explained that her real defeat happened way before this moment. It turns out that failing her one true wish was the only loss that actually mattered to her. The MC started connecting the dots, wondering if this grand wish involved bringing back the human that the goddess once loved. It was either that or a desperate attempt to become human herself. A sly smile started forming on the deity's face as she watched Hiyoko react to the news. While she was ready to admit defeat, she was not about to make things easy for the intruder. Suddenly, the conversation took a sharp turn when the goddess asked about her family. Hiyoko admitted she was just a temple orphan with zero family ties, leaving her wondering what this lady was actually planning. The deity let out a soft laugh, asking our MC what she was trying to say. A mysterious smile played on her lips as she prepared to drop the next bombshell. Floating high above the altar, she looked down at the tiny toddler. With a calm expression, she stated casually that she was actually Hiyoko's mother, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. Hiyoko could only manage a confused chirp as the goddess confirmed her words with a nod. She explained that Hiyoko was a direct creation meant to be her successor, floating in a swirl of divine light to emphasize the point. The revelation left our girl looking like her brain had just short-circuited. She stood there with a blank stare, wondering if this was all just some elaborate trick. The goddess casually mentioned that she tossed her creation aside once she became a liability and eventually died. Hiyoko's face twisted into horror as she realized this deity was just a piece of trash. Questions started flying about Hiyoko's unnatural power and how she could still use holy magic even after becoming a demon. It turns out her entire existence was an anomaly that should not even be possible in this world. The deity admitted she was impressed when the Pope correctly identified Hiyoko as the strongest human. While the old official nearby completely lost his mind, Hiyoko just looked down, struggling to process that she was basically a god. The deity admits she hasn't lifted a finger to help Hiyoko grow since the day she threw her away. Apparently, reaching full godhood takes way too long without a proper tutorial. She calls her own creation nothing more than an infant. asking if Hiyoko even realized how different she was from everyone else. Hiyoko doesn't bother denying it, but she's already realized this lady is pure trash. With a bright smile, the mother figure drops a request like she's asking for a cup of sugar. She wants Hiyoko to help revive her dead lover, and the MC can only manage a confused stare in response. It turns out the Demon Realm core wasn't enough to finish the job, so now she's eyeing Hiyoko's core for the missing piece. The lady is glowing with excitement as she realizes she hasn't lost the game yet. Our girl is catching the creeps as she watches this goddess lose her mind in real time. Clenching her tiny dress, Hiyoko finally starts to miss the Demon King's doting vibes. The goddess starts second-guessing if a core is even enough for her ritual. She casually asks Hiyoko if she would be down to just sacrifice her whole life instead. The goddess didn't even hesitate to confirm the cold truth. Since she was the one who created Hiyoko, she felt it was only natural to use her life however she wanted. Hiyoko was left speechless at the sheer level of delusion. This lady was so far gone she couldn't even imagine someone saying no to her insane request. Looking around the altar, Hiyoko realized she couldn't let this fake deity run wild anymore. A strange instinct was telling her to end things right then and there. Suddenly, a massive thorny vine slammed into the ground right where she was standing. Hiyoko barely managed to scramble out of the way before getting crushed. The goddess acted like Hiyoko was being dramatic for dodging her attacks. She promised she wouldn't kill her, but her vibes were definitely saying otherwise. The thorns kept coming, and Hiyoko knew that one wrong move would be a total game over. She pushed her tiny body to the limit to stay out of their reach. The old man yelled out to see if she needed backup, but Hiyoko told him to stay put in the shadows. She knew this was a mess she had to handle on her own. Hiyoko locks in, deciding this is a mess she has to clean up personally. She starts weaving through the massive thorns with surprising agility for a toddler. Suddenly, a frantic warning rings out to look down. Hiyoko barely has time to process the alert before the ground starts reacting beneath her feet. A thorn grazes her arm with a sharp strike, but she keeps her cool. She tells the old man she is fine, secretly relieved that her barrier managed to deflect the worst of the impact. She tells herself this scratch is a joke compared to what the hero did, but her body is not convinced. A heavy pulse of pain shoots through her as she tries to focus on resetting her defenses. Her vision flickers as she clutches her arm, letting out a pained groan. The skin around the scratch is already turning an ominous shade of purple, and her balance starts to slip. The goddess smirks, watching Hiyoko's legs give out. She gloats about her special lethal poison, confident that the little girl is officially out of the game. Instead of collapsing, Hiyoko launches herself forward with a massive burst of energy. The sudden counterattack catches the goddess completely off guard, sending her flying as a shockwave rips through the altar. The goddess is losing it, screaming about how her lethal poison should have already ended the fight. Hiyoko just stands there, completely unharmed. Hiyoko is just as confused as her enemy, swearing she didn't even cast a healing spell. The goddess realizes something is very wrong with the little girl's biology. The realization hits. Hiyoko is carrying a legendary blessing from the Phoenix, making her immune to poison and fatal wounds. Hiyoko drops a wave of pressure that pins the goddess to the floor while thanking her bird mentor. She realizes the blessing only kicks in for serious damage, which explains why she never noticed it before. Staying on guard, she assumes the blessing is reserved for critical injuries. It is clear that the goddess has zero intention of taking prisoners. Locking eyes with her opponent, Hiyoko drops a cryptic warning. She tells the goddess to actually look at the person standing right next to her. The goddess is too far gone in her rage to listen. She demands that Hiyoko sacrifice her life for the man she is obsessed with. Hiyoko flat out refuses to go through with the sacrifice, pointing her finger with total authority. She claims the man has zero interest in a forced revival, and suddenly his spirit materializes right behind the kneeling goddess. Our girl explains that she has been sensing his soul for a while now. It wasn't the dark magic keeping him here. He stayed behind of his own free will just to wait for her. She warns the goddess that the man's soul has reached its breaking point and can't hold on much longer. As if confirming the truth, the man's spirit offers a gentle, peaceful smile. Breaking down in tears, the goddess finally begs Hiyoko to set him free. Even though she hates the idea of being apart, she can't watch him suffer any longer. Hiyoko makes a final offer to send the goddess along with him. She tells her it's better for them to go together, rather than leaving one soul behind in the darkness. The goddess agrees, admitting that he has been waiting for this moment for way too long. Their hands finally overlap as they prepare to leave this realm behind. She asks Hiyoko to finish the job before she changes her mind. Closing her eyes, our MC prays that if they have a next life, it is one filled with nothing but happiness. Hiyoko bows her head and offers a final prayer for the spirits to find peace. She wishes for their next life to be filled with nothing but happiness. Standing by the casket, she watches the petals fall around the resting man. A simple wish for them to be the same species in their next life lingers in the air. He looks like he is just having a deep sleep, but the vibe shifts as the dark energy starts to manifest. A star-shaped object known as the core finally reveals itself. Our girl reaches out and catches the glowing artifact, Mission accomplished. She is now holding the core of the evil god. Holding the prize tight, a wave of homesickness hits her out of nowhere. It is time to wrap things up and head back to the demon castle. Elsewhere at the demon castle, our boy is officially done with the paperwork grind. He lets out a massive sigh while staring out the window, clearly counting down the seconds until Hiyoko makes it back from her mission. Inside the office, Zebes tries to get the king to relax, but his advice is cut short by a loud bang. Hiyoko, in her human disguise, practically kicks the doors down, leading the night squad back home after their successful heist. Seeing her favorite person, she yells Mao and launches herself into a full-speed tackle hug. The king barely has a second to react before he is completely buried under a wave of blonde hair and chaotic toddler energy. He looks down at her with a rare, soft smile, finally letting his guard down and welcoming her home. She beams right back at him, practically glowing because she knows she absolutely crushed it out there. The king notices a rip in her sleeve and goes into instant protective mode. But Hiyoko just laughs it off as a scratch. With a sudden magical poof, she drops the disguise and returns to her much more convenient fluffy bird form. Now it is time for the receipts as Rick steps forward. Holding the star-shaped artifact they risk their lives to grab. Bird Hiyoko hovers over the king's hand, chirping with pride as she presents the hard-earned prize. The king takes the dark core, carefully inspecting the artifact that caused all this trouble. He gives a simple nod in approval, while the knights behind him look like they are just happy to be alive and getting rewards later. Our boy officially receives the star core and thanks the squad for the heavy lifting. They try to play it cool by acting like they didn't do much, but the king is already thinking about their bonuses. Hiyoko chirps in from his shoulder to make sure everyone knows the squad put in that work. She points out how they handled the crowd control and kept things moving smooth. Since Hiyoko is giving them a 5-star review, the king tells the boys that refusing a reward is officially forbidden. They realize there is no winning this argument and just accept their fate. Rick steps up and presents a secret scroll he snagged from the temple on the way out. Turns out he also did some shadow ops at the human palace to steal their official invasion plans. The squad suggests using the stolen intel as blackmail, and the king is down to take the papers. The boys are absolutely beaming just to be helping out the boss like this. Rick admits he also took the time to personally threaten the Pope. He is determined to make sure the humans never even think about invading the demon realm again. As a final trophy, Rick offers a literal clump of the Pope's beard hair, but the king is definitely not taking that. He gives the knights some props for the intimidation work instead, making Rick stay. The king walks toward the altar to finally return the star core. Hiyoko chirps along for the ride as they step into the grand fancy hall. Artifact offered, the room immediately fills with a powerful surge of dark energy. Hiyoko is stunned by the light show since the core is somehow pitch black and blinding at the same time. Out of the void steps a tall blonde guy with major model energy. He watches the pair with a soft smile that instantly shifts the mood. This new player steps into the light and greets Hiyoko as his own child. He is practically glowing and looks way too relaxed for a surprise divine appearance. Hiyoko connects the dots and realizes she was created using this guy's power. She stares at the handsome deity while her tiny bird brain tries to process the sudden family reunion. Looking from the king to the new guy, she wonders if she just upgraded to a divine pupper. The king just stands there while Hiyoko analyzes her potential family tree. The visitor introduces himself as Lord Duselbert, the god of the demon realm. He admits he is one half of her divine origin and has been keeping an eye on her journey the whole time. Duselbert admits he has been keeping an eye on Hiyoko this whole time. He already knows her name before she even has a chance to introduce herself. The god drops a bombshell and tells Hiyoko to start calling him daddy. She is actually about to go along with it when the king steps in to block the vibe. Duselbert calls out the king for trying to sabotage the bonding moment. Our boy tries to act casual and look away, but the god sees right through the fake whistle. He takes the king's silence as a confirmation. He knows exactly what is going on, accusing the boss of being jealous that his father title might be up for grabs. The king finally speaks up and tells the deity that he respects him, but showing up out of nowhere to claim the dad title is way too much. A spark of rivalry ignites as the king insists that he should be the one called father. Duselbert just calls him out, saying he is only saying that because he wants the title for himself. The king stands his ground and asks what is wrong with wanting to be the favorite. Hiyoko just watches in shock as two top-tier hotties fight over her like she is the prize in a divine custody battle. Hiyoko looks at the guys and wonders if one of them could just fill the empty mum slot. She quickly shuts down the idea because she knows they would both hate it. Thinking it over, she tells them that since she does not have a mother anymore, having two dads is actually a win. She officially dubs the king as her papa and Duselbert as her father. Chirping happily about having double the dads leaves them both completely stunned. The king gives in because he does not want to make his girl sad. Then the god drops a bomb by announcing he is moving into the demon castle with them. The king is short-circuiting, staring into nothingness as the reality of the situation sinks in. He eventually finds the words to ask why the sudden move after so long in the temple, but the god just smiles. According to Duselbert, there is nothing more natural than a father wanting to live with his child. The king tries to maintain his tough guy act, asking if anyone has a complaint about the new house guest. He immediately folds and trails off, looking defeated by the god's presence. Hiyoko just watches the meltdown from his shoulder, realizing it is pretty rare to see her papa get played like this. The god warns him not to put his room on the opposite side of the castle. The king reluctantly agrees, even though he was definitely planning to do that. Duzilbert decides it is time to head back to the castle and face the people he has worried for so long. The king just goes along with it, accepting that his quiet life is officially over. Our boy cannot wait to get some bird cuddles and scoops up Hiyoko like she is a plushie. The king just stands there glitching while he watches his bird get stolen. He starts playing hi-hi with the bird, completely ignoring the king's death stare in the background. Looking at the altar, Hiyoko realizes the familiar vibe she felt here was just his divine presence. Lore bomb dropped. He explains that Hiyoko was never actually human to begin with. The holy god literally cooked her up in a lab just to have a successor to take over the family business. She is technically a god, just a very tiny and immature one. He calls her an apprentice god, and she just stares back like she is processing a software update. They finally make their grand entrance, and the crowd goes absolutely wild. People are screaming his name from the balconies like he just dropped the album of the year. The welcome home party is in full swing, with everyone cheering for the return of their deity. They even give Hiyoko a shout-out, thanking her for making sure their god made it back in one piece. The grand homecoming is hitting different as they walk through a sea of cheering faces and falling confetti. It is a literal parade for the return of their deity. Duzilbert waves to the crowd like a natural celebrity, noting how happy everyone looks. The king just sighs and goes along with the vibe while Hiyoko hitches a ride on a divine shoulder. Our divine boy reflects on how he should have come back sooner. He admits to feeling a tiny bit of sympathy for the goddess he left behind, even if she was a total mess. Hiyoko is busy doing her best drill impression inside his fluffy cape. The king tells her it is time to come out, but she is way too comfortable in her new silk nest. She is fully embracing her bird side, claiming the fluff feels like home. The king warns her to snap out of it before she forgets how to be an apprentice god. Noticing the king looks a bit left out, Hiyoko pulls a pro-gamer move and hops over to his shoulder. Duzilbert is left hanging while the king gets a sudden dose of bird affection. She tells her two dads they need to play nice for her sake. They both agree to make it work, even if the atmosphere is still a little awkward between them. Giving a reluctant nod, the king finally caves and agrees to the plan. Duzilbert just smirks, noting how much the guy clearly hates being told what to do. Back at the castle, the staff is already rolling out the red carpet. Orbis and the clerk drop a deep bow to welcome their god back home. Duzilbert tells them to stand up and keep it casual because it is a happy day. The king just watches from the side, looking like he is already over his new roommate. Orbis is not letting him off the hook, though. He asks Lord Duzilbert what is with that new formal way of speaking. Duzilbert just plays dumb and asks what they are talking about. Orbis wonders if sleeping for thousands of years just gives you a personality transplant. The staff notes that he sounds exactly like the king now. Duzilbert tries to shake it off while Hiyoko watches the awkward energy from the sidelines. Our main bird realizes that the castle crew has no idea about the new family tree. She decides it is time to drop a quick update. She casually announces that she is officially the god's daughter. Orbis and the clerk can only stare in silence as their brains completely stall out. The king finishes his explanation, and the staff finally understands why the god changed his entire personality. Orbis realizes the god was just trying to be a respectable father. He started acting like the king because that is who the bird respects the most. Hiyoko asks for a confirmation, while the king notes that the god was surprisingly considerate. The wholesome talk is interrupted by Schwartz barging in and screaming for the Saintess. The bird realizes she forgot about her secret identity being leaked. Schwartz has been spiraling ever since she learned her hero is a tiny bird. Schwartz comes rolling into the room like a chaotic mess. Hiyoko tries to say she retired from the Saintess life, but her biggest fan is already kneeling in worship. The new title of Hiyoko-sama has our bird feeling a bit confused. She cautiously asks if the girl is let down now that her idol is so tiny. Schwartz makes it clear that she is not disappointed at all. The hero she admires might be a bit more childish now, but that same core kindness is still there. Having her idol back from the dead is the best gift Schwartz could ask for, and she is not holding back her joy. She tells the group that there is nothing happier than finding out the hero she mourned is actually alive. Hiyoko is feeling a wave of guilt, apologizing to the girl in her head for ever calling her a weirdo, now that Schwartz's respect points have hit a record high. Lord Duzilbert watches the wholesome moment and notes that the girl has a truly good spirit. Duzilbert admits he was worried she might turn her back if her hero did not meet her expectations, but he is relieved to see that is not the case. He admits he was already thinking about how to handle things if she had reacted poorly. Schwartz fires back immediately, making it clear she is not some fair weather fan who would ever abandon her idol. She insists that she is not that kind of trash person, regardless of who is asking. Hiyoko asks if the bird reveal was a total shock, but but Schwartz just starts waving her hands around and says it would be blasphemous to look down on the Saintess. The king watches the chaos and gently suggests that it might be time for her to finally stand up. She clarifies that her surprise was just the pure shock of finding out the person she thought was gone was actually alive and well. It turns out that her idol being a tiny bird is the last thing on her mind. The king is relieved that the sadness is finally over, and Hiyoko lets out a satisfied chirp from her spot on his shoulder. Schwartz is curious about the new guy, but she has no clue. Her world is about to be turned upside down. Narrative text teases that her soul is basically going to leave her body once she realizes he is a literal god. Dusselbert is already over the constant introductions, finding the whole shock factor thing a total drag. While he complains, Schwartz faints from the vibe check and gets carried out like a sack of laundry. The king officially declares Hiyoko as his child, making sure everyone knows who she belongs to. He is fully embracing the girl-dad role, even with a divine rival sitting right there. Dusselbert wonders where the little bird actually sleeps at night. Hiyoko's mind wanders through all her favorite cozy spots, from the king's pillow to the custom house he built her. The new dad drops a bomb announcing he is joining the sleeping arrangement from now on. The king immediately hits him with a hard pass, yelling that the idea is strictly denied. Dusselbert is not taking no for an answer, deciding he will just crash the king's bed along with Hiyoko. This dude really has no boundaries, and the king is left sputtering in disbelief at the sheer audacity. Realizing he is messing with the king's healing time, Dusselbert decides to call off the private sleepover. He settles for a weirdly phrased compromise that has Hiyoko looking completely lost. Dusselbert isn't backing down, casually dropping the fact that he's going to crash their bed and ruin the vibe. The king is floored by the audacity. Our boy hits him with the hardest pass in history, flat out refusing to let this man anywhere near his sleeping quarters. Hiyoko just watches the drama unfold with a blank, judgment-free stare. Even with Hiyoko turning on the maximum charm, Papa isn't budging on this one specific boundary. He tries to stand his ground, but the little bird just hits him with a disappointed chirp from his palm. Dusselbert just laughs it off, clarifying that he has zero interest in actually sleeping next to another dude in his human form. He thinks the whole idea is just as creepy as the king does. When the king asks what his actual plan is, Dusselbert decides it is time for a tactical transformation. A cloud of magic smoke erupts as his form starts to shift into something much smaller and fluffier. The divine god of the realm just turned himself into a giant, fluffy chicken. Hiyoko is obsessed with the new look, while the king just looks like he is reconsidering every life choice that led to this moment. The rooster god struts around with pride, fully embracing his new plushy aesthetic. Hiyoko is slightly confused though, wondering if this was actually the intended result or if the transformation was just a fail. Dusselbert explains that he chose this specific low-res plushy look on purpose, because being too realistic would just be creepy. Since the king was so pressed about boundaries, the god decides to stay in this fluffy form so he can have that sleepover with Hiyoko without any drama. The king tells him he should have led with that. Apparently, as long as he is just a giant chicken, the demon lord is willing to let it slide. Hiyoko is just happy. Her two dads are finally finding some common ground. Father opens his wings and tells her to dive straight into the fluff. It is an immediate cuteness overload as the little bird buries herself in the feathers. Even Zebes has to point out how wholesome the vibe has become. Exhausted from the mental gymnastics, our boy just slumps back while Dusselbert mentions that this cozy arrangement isn't just for fun. The tone shifts fast when the god reveals a serious problem because the holy god abandoned her. Hiyoko's divine core is actually in a pretty unstable state. Dusselbert explains that staying in this plushy form actually helps him transfer divine power to Hiyoko more effectively. The king just stares him down with a look of pure exhaustion. Our boy snaps and tells the god he should have started with that explanation. As night falls over the castle walls, the family drama finally begins to simmer down. Inside the dark bedroom, the peace is quickly shattered by some very loud chirping coming from behind the curtains. Hiyoko is treating the giant rooster like a bouncy house, hopping all over his back while the king watches from the couch. He notes how happy she looks, and she confirms she is having the time of her life. The simple swaying of father's walk is enough to keep our little bird entertained for hours. This goofy moment actually hits deep for Hiyoko, as it fulfills her old dream of being carried by a parent. Dusselbert tells her to hold on tight while he continues the ride. Things get a little too wild when the god starts flapping his wings and kicking up a storm. The king has to play the buzzkill and tell him to settle down before it ruins Hiyoko's bedtime. Our boy sighs. A child's sleep is the top priority, but he just can't bring himself to be stern when father looks like a giant plushie. Dusselbert settles into the bed and invites Hiyoko over, calling it the perfect nesting spot. The king quickly points out that it's actually his pillow and they have their own beds, but the god tells him to stop being so uptight. Father even pats a spot in the middle of the bed, inviting the king to join their little family huddle. Our boy just stares back with a blank expression, totally speechless. Giving in to the pressure, the king finally flops onto the bed alongside them. He can't help but note how adorable the little bird looks as she chirps in response to his presence. Dusselbert starts getting sentimental, wishing he had been awake to keep Hiyoko warm when she was just an egg. The little bird immediately kills the vibe by reminding him that she never actually had an egg stage. The god tells her not to sweat the details and declares it is officially bedtime for good kids. Just as she starts to nestle in, the king plucks her out of the fluff with a much more serious agenda. There is one last thing they need to settle before anyone goes to sleep. Hiyoko plays it cool and acts like she has no clue what he is talking about. The Demon King holds Hiyoko in his palm, demanding a full explanation for her injuries. The little bird just lets out a nervous chirp while she sweats. Our boy lets out a heavy sigh as Hiyoko admits she is officially out of excuses. She flops over on the bed, looking drained after her confession. The bird peeks up nervously, wondering if she is about to get a lecture. Instead, the king offers a gentle touch and promises not to nag since the danger is over. He just has one request: no more hiding her wounds. He notes they definitely owe the phoenix a thank you for saving her life. Hiyoko gets serious for a second, realizing the poison was so fast acting that her own magic might not have saved her. She is genuinely grateful for the assist. Father decides the vibe is too heavy and offers himself up as a huge stress ball. He invites the king to join in on the fluff therapy and touch his feathers. The king does not need to be told twice. He dives straight into the huge bird's feathers, burying his face in the fluffy cushion. Doozelbert notes how much the king loves animals, and our boy just quietly agrees. He dives into the soft feathers and finally gives in to his exhaustion. Before long, the kid is officially out cold. Hiyoko starts nodding off too, her head drooping as she drifts away. Doozelbert reflects on how he was only supposed to have one child. He lets out a quiet sigh as he watches over the pair. Watching the two of them sleep, the god has a change of heart. He decides that the entire demon race counts as his children too. Hiyoko wakes up to a giant chicken face staring her down. Doozelbert wishes her a good morning and asks if she slept well, while she just realizes her new dad is a total bird. It takes a second to process, but yeah, this giant plushy rooster is definitely her father. The king comments on her cute bedhead while she just accepts her morning look. Even as an apprentice god who used to be human, she still gets messy morning feathers just like anyone else. She rolls around the pillow, leaning into the domestic fluff. Doozelbert offers to help groom her, but the king is not about to let his dad duties slide. He pulls out a tiny brush with a look of pure determination. The king starts gently brushing Hiyoko, making her feel like she is on cloud 9. He even moves on to give the giant rooster a turn, though it looks a bit ridiculous with that tiny brush. Our boy makes it clear that he is not handing over his grooming duties to anyone. Doozelbert does not seem to care about the rivalry as long as he gets his own feathers smoothed out. The king agrees to help out once he is finished with Hiyoko, and the god is more than happy to wait his turn. Domestic life in the demon castle is getting more wholesome by the minute. The king gets to work with a tiny brush, and the giant rooster leans into it. He starts vibrating from the pure bliss of a good scratch, while Hiyoko watches the chaos from the sidelines. Our boy is worried his dad is taking the bird life a bit too seriously, but the rooster insists he is not forcing the act. He seems perfectly content being carried around like a giant toy. Breakfast is served, and Hiyoko dives into her omelette without a second thought. The mood shifts once the rooster realizes his meal has a face and connects the dots on what he is actually eating. The god decides eggs are a bit too much and asks the chef for a teriyaki chicken sandwich instead. The king is left at a loss for words while his dad chooses the most ironic meal possible. Zebes lets himself into the room with an apology for the early interruption. Hiyoko chirps a friendly morning greeting while the rest of the table is still stuck on the sandwich situation. The Prime Minister tries to stick to business, but his focus slips the second he sees the plate. He just stares at the chicken while the rooster wonders what is so interesting. With the god finally back from his long nap, Zebes pushes for a public debut to settle the restless crowd. He wants the citizens to see their deity in the flesh and know that peace has finally returned. Doozelbert thinks his rooster form is the play, but Zebes shuts that down immediately. He insists the god goes human mode so they can actually get things done. The Prime Minister is already on that grind, planning a revival ceremony for the god's return. He wants to start suit measurements right now, giving his boss zero time to breathe. Zebes carries the giant chicken away to get fitted, leaving Hiyoko and the king behind in the dust. The door slams shut, and the vibe in the room is pure confusion. The king is looking pretty depressed because his peaceful breakfast just got hijacked by his workaholic minister. He just wanted to spend some quality time with his daughter, but the schedule is packed. As the door clicks shut, Hiyoko looks up at the king with a very serious question. She is starting to wonder if her divine father was always this much of a chaotic bird. Our boy looks like he is going through it, feeling a weird sense of pity for the god being dragged around. He realizes that even though he wanted the god to lose his dignity, this might be overdoing it. Hiyoko gets deep, saying she is just happy. Her dads are alive even if they have zero chill. The king realizes the mood is getting a bit too heavy and slides over a tiny pudding to make it all better. Doozelbert slams the door open just as Hiyoko is finishing her dessert. He is not taking no for an answer, announcing that she is officially joining the ceremony. The sudden entrance sends our tiny bird flying into the air with a shock, Seeing her panic, Dusselbert immediately apologizes for the aggressive wake-up call. He checks if she is mad, but one look at his handsome smile has her completely forgetting the jump scare. That divine charm is just built different. He explains the plan to bring her along to the big event. This is the perfect chance to officially announce her status as his daughter to the entire realm. The king suggests getting her an outfit, which leaves her wondering how a bird is supposed to wear clothes. Dusselbert just smiles because he knows something she does not. The big reveal drops as Dusselbert tells her she does not need magic to look human anymore. Her divine core is stable enough to hold a real form on its own. Hiyoko is skeptical since her previous attempts to transform were a total bust. Dusselbert confirms he knows all about her past struggles and why she was stuck before. A gentle boop on the head is all it takes for the king to start connecting the dots. He figures that blowing the hero out of existence probably gave Hiyoko the mental reset she needed to finally move forward. Dusselbert decides it is time to step in and offer some divine assistance. He triggers a transformation so intense it fills the entire room with a literal storm of feathers. The feathers settle to reveal our tiny bird has officially gone full human. Her divine father is practically glowing with pride as he celebrates her successful transformation into this adorable new form. Hiyoko takes a second to check out her stable new body, but the king is already a total mess. Dusselbert tells her not to worry because her other dad is just having a major emotional breakdown from the shock. The king tries to keep his composure, but he is officially losing it. Seeing her finally reach her true form has him sobbing while Hiyoko hops over to check if he is okay. He pulls her into a tight hug as the weight of the moment finally sinks in. A simple thank you from his daughter is all it takes to turn his stress into pure relief. Dusselbert and Zebes watch the wholesome family bonding from the sidelines with pure satisfaction. It is peak fatherhood content, even if the king is wondering when the prime minister even entered the room. Dusselbert drops a casual invite for Hiyoko to attend a big ceremony with him. She looks up with pure curiosity, wondering what kind of event her new dads are planning. He gets a bit self-conscious, wondering if she will be disappointed once he stops acting all godly and shows his true self. Hiyoko just gives him a blank stare, promising she is not going to judge. Dusselbert needs a triple confirmation that she is really okay with his goofy side. Once she gives him the green light, he is ready to drop the act. The divine mask is off and the doting dad energy is through the roof. He smothers her in affection while the king and Zebes watch the awkward display with deadpan faces. Zebes and the king are just glad the little one was not repulsed by the sudden shift in personality. Dusselbert finally relaxes, thanking everyone for keeping his secret until he was ready. The staff agrees that this casual version of their god feels much more natural. It seems Hiyoko's influence is already making the castle vibe a lot more wholesome. With the bonding session over, it is time for some high-end shopping to get Hiyoko ready for her big debut. They head off to find a ceremony dress, leaving behind a room that looks like a tornado of fabric went through it. Dusselbert is officially drowning in a sea of clothes, and Hiyoko is just wondering why picking an outfit is taking so long. The king is already dressed and ready, but Zebes knows their divine guest is basically allergic to cleaning up after himself. The dads are in full planning mode as they hit the sofa to flip through some catalogues. Dusselbert tells Zebes to handle the measurements while the king focuses on finding the best dress for his daughter. Hiyoko is distracted by the tape measure, while Zebes tries to get her height, but she is way more interested in her cocoa. She takes a long sip as her butler promises a refill to keep the tiny guest happy. The fashion debate turns into a full-on roast session as the two dads start coming for each other's taste. Dusselbert thinks the king has zero style, but the king fires back that his choices are actively sabotaging Hiyoko's charm. Our girl is happy to sit on the sidelines and sip her drink while the adults lose their minds. She knows nothing about fashion and is fine with letting them fight it out. Zebes points out that these two are usually never this picky about their wardrobe, but the dad energy is real today. He is even willing to delay their work just to make sure this ceremony look is right. Hiyoko suggests that Zebes should just step in and pick something, but he admits he is such a perfectionist that it would take him 3 more days. She quickly realizes that adding him to the mix would be a disaster. Zebes tells the group to chill because he brought in an expert to handle the situation. Orbis walks through the door and is immediately hit by the chaotic energy of the castle. The mini Saintess gets a celebratory lift to mark her successful transformation. It is a major win for the squad to finally see her rocking her human disguise. Orbis asks his grandfather why he was summoned to the fashion dungeon. Zebes explains that he needs an intervention to stop the dads from arguing for the rest of time. The plan is for the new recruit to pick a dress and end this nightmare once and for all. In the background, the two dads are still going head-to-head over every single color choice. Hiyoko locks in with a direct request that no one could possibly turn down. Faced with that much pressure, Orbis is ready to take on the mission. He heads toward the dressing room with total confidence, promising to find the perfect fit. Hiyoko watches him go, wondering if he realizes he is walking straight into a battlefield. The second he steps inside, he starts roasting their terrible fashion choices. Orbis cannot believe they were actually considering a mermaid dress for a literal child. Orbis is laying down the law, telling the dads that silver isn't for kids and that a mermaid line is a total no-go. The two divine fathers can only watch in silence as their fashion sense gets absolutely shredded. Finding nothing but trash in the catalogues, Orbis decides to take matters into his own hands and starts sketching a custom design on the fly. Hiyoko is clearly vibing with the new look, giving him a sparkling reaction. The finished concept is pure princess energy, and Hiyoko is completely mesmerized by the sketch. Orbis checks in with the dads to see if they approve, but they are still in a total trance from the fashion beatdown. Mission accomplished, Orbis heads out to get the dress made, leaving our girl wondering what she's supposed to do next. He keeps it professional and tells her he'll handle the arrangements from here. The job isn't quite done yet because Hiyoko is tasked with cleaning up the room and fixing the dad's broken spirits. The two fathers are still deep in their feelings, sulking like they just lost a major boss fight. While Hiyoko tries to figure out how to manage two depressed deities, Zebes is perfectly content to sit back and ignore the entire mess. He knows exactly when to stay out of the family drama. Our girl decides to take the direct approach, climbing onto the king's lap to reset his mood with some daughter energy. It works like a charm for the king, but now Düsselbert is having a total meltdown because he's not the favourite today. King is back in his happy place with the head pats, while Düsselbert is losing his mind over being the second favourite dad. Determined to win her over, father pulls out the ultimate weapon and goes for the snack bribe. One bite in and she is in food heaven, oblivious to how easily her snack bribe fixed her other dad's attitude. He drops a line about her being his sunshine, while the king just sits back and lets the sentimental moment slide. All that praise has her giggling, and she is officially feeling the love from her double dads. Zebes acts like he solved everything with his summary, but our MC isn't forgetting that he sat back and watched her struggle. Preparation for the ceremony kicks into overdrive as the staff scrambles to keep the momentum going. Fast forward a few days, and the quiet of the night isn't helping Hiyoko get any rest. She's stuck staring at the ceiling with her mind running at 100 miles an hour. The public only knows about the god's big return, and being a surprise guest is giving her a serious case of the jitters. Orbis is hyped for the reveal, but her anxiety is telling a different story. It's hard to relax when she remembers her old reputation as the enemy Saintess. With the ceremony arriving tomorrow, she buries herself in the covers and tries to manifest some courage. The big day finally arrived and the castle was already decked out for the ceremony. The Demon King tried to be the early bird by telling Hiyoko it was time to get moving, but she was still buried deep in her blankets. Even with a fluffy god rooster as her alarm clock, Hiyoko wasn't having it. She complained about being up way too early, but Düsselbert pleaded with her to rally for the big event. Seeing that her father had actually woken up even earlier than her just to get things ready changed her mood. It was a sweet gesture that made it hard to stay grumpy. Düsselbert practically plucked her out of bed to get the morning routine started. A quick drink of water from a dropper was the final wake-up call she needed to shake off the sleep. With the morning in full swing, the Demon King checked in to make sure she was ready for her bath. Hiyoko gave him a tiny nod, ready to handle her business. She went from a steaming bird bath straight into her human transformation. The hot water definitely did its job, leaving her feeling refreshed and ready for the next step. A squad of maids appeared to take over the morning prep. They were all business, escorting Hiyoko to the dressing room while the boys were left behind to watch her get ready. The maids were celebrating a job well done after finishing the look. Hiyoko stepped out of the room in a dress so frilly it probably had its own gravity. Speechless and stunned, the dads couldn't even find words for the glow-up. Our girl just gave them a big smile and told them they looked pretty sharp too. Düsselbert joked that they were definitely going to be overshadowed by how adorable she looked. Hiyoko just chirped happily, clearly feeling herself in the new outfit. Time to move out, but Hiyoko was starting to look a little dazed. She was clearly hitting that morning wall as they headed toward the exit. Düsselbert scooped her up after noticing she was stuck in her own head. He asked if she was worried about whether the citizens would actually accept her. A quiet nod confirmed it, but he immediately shut down those doubts. He told her there was no way anyone would hate the person who saved their god. Since she was the daughter of the god they worshipped, her status was already legendary. That logic seemed to settle the matter as they kept walking. Düsselbert stepped onto the balcony with Hiyoko in his arms. He joked that since she was his daughter, the people were basically required to worship her. The Demon King thanked the massive crowd for showing up. He told them he had a very special person to introduce. "This is my daughter, Hiyoko." He announced to the cheering masses. He even dropped the bombshell that she used to be a Saintess in the human world. The crowd absolutely lost it and started shouting about how cute she was. Düsselbert nudged her to give them a little wave while the Demon King smiled at the successful debut. Our girl managed a tiny nod and a wave to the sea of people. The roar from the crowd was loud enough to be heard from miles away. Back inside, the social battery was officially at 0. Hiyoko collapsed onto the couch and begged to finally get out of that frilly dress. Our MC popped back into her bird form for some much-needed relief. Düsselbert followed her lead and turned into a plushie before mentioning a dinner party with the Lords was up next. Our MC was already asking about the food situation, but the Demon King had to hit her with a reality check. He warned that skipping her greetings would lead to her getting swarmed by a mob of old fans. Duzlebert stepped in and reminded everyone that nobody forces a god to do anything. Hiyoko started wondering if she was getting a little too comfortable with the VIP treatment that came with being his daughter. Seeing her social battery was fried, the Demon King told Duzlebert to let her sleep. Hiyoko admitted she was definitely feeling the crash, but she was still having trouble fully checking out for the night. Duzlebert offered to groom her feathers to help her relax. She let out a tiny chirp and finally started to drift off. While she was out, a group of lords was low-key, losing it over how cute she looked while sleeping. They were dying to say hello, but they did not want to risk waking the guest of honor. The Demon King told them it was a no-go until Hiyoko gave them the green light herself. Even though they tried to stay quiet with telepathy, the vibe in the room was enough to wake her up. Hiyoko woke up sensing some serious pressure nearby. The Demon King joked that she had slept straight through to noon, but her stomach was already screaming for a breakfast and lunch combo. The Demon King tried to keep her grounded, but Hiyoko was already zooming toward the dining hall. She's not about that waiting life when a breakfast-lunch combo is on the line. Duzlebert was already at the table wondering where the boss went. Right on cue, the Demon King finally swung the doors open to join the party. He did not come alone though. A whole squad of elder lords followed him in, and Hiyoko could not believe they were already camping out for a meet and greet. The Demon King was clearly over the retirement home energy. One of the mustachioed elders stepped forward, practically begging for a formal introduction. Duzlebert left the call to his daughter, and she gave the official green light with a quick nod. The elders were grateful for the chance to speak. They introduced themselves as leaders of the realm's original ancient races, a group that is apparently super rare these days. The Demon King gave her the quick lore dump on the situation. While most demons are mixed, these guys are the 10% who have been around since the very beginning. One of the elders laughed it off with a jolly vibe. He mentioned that while demons live longer than humans, they are really just old-timers who have stuck around for a while. The elder could not resist giving Hiyoko a gentle poke, calling her cute as she introduced herself. Suddenly, the whole squad started whining because they wanted a turn, but the Demon King told them to wait until after lunch. Once the meal was over, they did a proper round of introductions. Hiyoko even gave them a tiny wing shake to make it official. The grandpas were practically glowing, claiming this meeting alone would add another 500 years to their lives. They did not come empty-handed either, bringing a ton of gifts to celebrate the god finally having a child. It turned out to be a mountain of gifts that was way too much for one tiny bird to handle. We are talking stacks of toys, clothes, and snacks that towered over her. Duzlebert checked in with the group as they moved the hall to the temple for safekeeping. He gave them a warm smile and thanked them for being so generous to his daughter. The elder noted that by the time they arrived, the altar was already buried under a sea of offerings. Duzlebert looked genuinely touched by how much the people cared. Hiyoko wonders if the gifts go straight to him, but Duzlebert explains that temple offerings convert directly into divine power. He promises to swing by for the loot later. The elders are actually jealous of the title, wishing they could be called father too. Our girl decides she wants her own temple after seeing how the economy works. The Demon King is not having it and shuts her down instantly. Duzlebert tells her she needs more god experience before getting a shrine. The dads have officially formed a united front against her request. Rejection is a tough pill to swallow. She collapses into a comical faceplant but quickly starts cooking up a new plan. Since they said no, she just claims a random building as her own. She proudly chirps that this is now the official temple of Hiyoko. The dads watch the DIY project from the sidelines. Duzlebert is actually crying because his kid is just too pure for this world. Hiyoko asks her dads if she can turn the dollhouse into a temporary temple. Duzlebert thinks it is a weird use for a toy, but the Demon King caves and gives her the green light. They promise her a big upgrade once she becomes a proper deity. Our girl is down for that future expansion. She immediately runs to show off the new setup to Schwartz. The tiny god is hyped that her personal shrine is officially open for business. Schwartz is surprised to see a toy house rebranded as a sacred site. She figures the Demon King must be thrilled his gift got promoted to holy status. Having your gift turned into a temple is the ultimate dad flex. Schwartz convinces her that the king is definitely feeling like a proud parent right now. Their dynamic has finally settled into a sweet spot. Schwartz manages to balance her respect for the deity with her urge to dote on a cute bird. Offering gifts at the new altar sounds like a plan. Hiyoko is already dreaming of all the tribute she is about to collect. Our girl is already demanding tribute for her brand new shrine. Schwartz shows up with a bag of snacks, and the tiny deity points out exactly where the goods should be placed. Schwartz offers a sincere prayer at the toy altar. Suddenly, Hiyoko starts glowing like a battery at full charge. The light show spreads to Schwartz as she starts emitting a divine flash herself. Hiyoko chirps for her dads to come witness the magic trick. Hiyoko is convinced her friend just transformed into a bug after that light show. Schwartz has to gently explain that she is still a human being. The Demon King finally pieces together the truth behind the glowing mystery. Schwartz has officially been recognized as the very first true believer in the Church of Hiyoko. The rooster god provides a quick lore drop that glows basically a divine receipt for a sincere prayer offered at a legitimate temple. The king gives his daughter some props for landing her first official recruit. Schwartz is left shaking in the background after her sudden promotion to Holy Disciple. Schwartz is absolutely losing her mind with joy. She can hardly believe she has been chosen as Hiyoko's very first disciple. The promotion goes straight to her head as she continues her loud celebration. The rest of the group just stands there watching their new recruit have a total excitement meltdown. Hiyoko noticing a heavy vibe in the room. Her fathers and Schwartz look way more serious than usual while they work through their daily tasks. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Schwartz finally pipes up to ask why everyone is acting so strange. Hiyoko realizes she might be the one making things awkward. She decides it is time to make a quick exit and give the adults some space to talk. She announces her plan to head over to Orbis's place for a playdate. The squad wishes her a safe trip, clearly relieved to see her moving on. Walking alone through the halls, our girl is low-key salty that no one tried to follow her. She mopes about how boring things have been since everyone started acting so moody. Switching into her human form, she corners Orbis to demand some answers. The poor guy is already sweating buckets, trying his best to play dumb. She threatens to throw hands if he doesn't start talking. Fully confident she could take him in a fight, Orbis can only sigh as he carries the tiny ball of rage away from the scene. Orbis lets slip that things aren't all sunshine and rainbows since some demons are actually sending protest letters to the king about Hiyoko. When she asks for details, Orbis explains that her divine origins are a major trigger for the local population. He starts to mention something else but decides to keep his mouth shut. Hiyoko notes that her existence wasn't exactly a voluntary choice by her father. Orbis can only agree, noting that the letter probably touched on that vibe. After mentioning that performance is what really matters, she asks Orbis if he knows exactly who is responsible for the hate mail. Elsewhere, Hiyoko is back in her bird form while they walk through the woods. She tells Orbis he doesn't need to follow her since she's plenty strong and knows the path. Orbis won't hear it, insisting that she's still a child, and he would definitely be the one getting yelled at if anything happened to her. Hiyoko admits that being cared for like this actually feels kind of nice. Orbis just laughs, totally charmed by how cute she's acting. Orbis asks why she is sticking with the bird look. Apparently, she is keeping the form for maximum psychological damage in case things get ugly. He makes a promise to back down if he says she is going too far. She just gives a tiny chirp of agreement as they keep moving. They arrive at the doorstep of the low-ranking noble family behind the drama. These guys have been part of the elite for a long time and think they are special. Since the protest was a team effort, Orbis plans to hit every single house on the list today. Hiyoko does not care about the hate, but making her dad sad is where she draws the line. Our girl is officially out for blood. Puffing up her feathers, she channels some loudspeaker magic. She screams for them to get outside and face her right now. A group of noble brats are already waiting at the gate with zero respect. One points her out and demands to know if she is the kid of that trash deity. The noble kids are already losing their minds just seeing Orbis there. They immediately label him a traitor and shout about removing him from the deity's side. Orbis is just standing there looking confused by the sudden aggression. They claim bringing Orbis along is a total coward move. Hiyoko is just standing there with a question mark over her head. Apparently they think he is the only one keeping her in check. Orbis stays chill and promises he will not interfere. He explains to the bird that since the low-ranking demons did not see her original power, they have no idea how dangerous she actually is. One of the kids demands confirmation that Orbis will not step in. He agrees to stay back unless things get life-threatening. That was definitely the wrong thing to say to these hot-headed brats. They decide they have seen enough and launch their coordinated attack. They rush forward while shouting for her to take this. A massive explosion of energy fills the area. The leader's confident smirk instantly vanishes as the smoke clears. He can only manage a confused expression when he sees the result. Our girl does not do mercy. She launches a tiny but devastating kick that sends the entire group flying through the air. Orbis has to physically step in before she turns them into permanent lawn ornaments. Hiyoko celebrates her win with a literal victory banner while Orbis watches from the sidelines. He gives her a head pat for stopping the beatdown, but asks what she plans to do with the nobles now. Orbis points out that violence does not usually fix a bad personality. Hiyoko realizes he has a point and flops onto his hand in total agreement. She admits her brain was running on pure rage and she had zero follow-up plans to fix the vibe. She suggests they pivot from combat to a civil discussion. The young noble boy on the ground laughs at how backwards their negotiation style is. Since demons respect strength above all else, he accepts his loss without a grudge. He tries to sit up but catches Hiyoko floating right in front of his face with a scary expression. The sudden jump scare sends him into a panic attack as he screams for his life. Mission accomplished, she flies off with a smug vibe after a successful prank. The nobles are left scrambling in the dirt like they just saw a ghost. Orbis realizes he just witnessed a world-class prank by a literal child. The leader is too embarrassed to even stand up while his friends help him up, leaving our duo to watch the pathetic scene unfold. Orbis suggests these kids aren't evil deep down. Hiyoko hops onto the ground to have a heart-to-heart with the defeated leader. Our girl isn't done with them yet and demands they sit down for a chat. The noble is too terrified to say no and just stutters through his response. Sometime later, Hiyoko shows up at the gate ready for a new round. A blast rocks the training area as Hiyoko claims another victory. The souls of the noble kids leave their bodies while she celebrates her winning streak. Her dad scoops her up and tells her she is basically unbeatable. He glows with pride while holding her close. Her success has wiped away all the stress from his face. Turns out they made a high-stakes bet before the fight even started. If the blue hair squad won, Hiyoko would have to stay out of sight. But if they lost, the price was going to be steep. Now the noble is face down in the dirt and forced to deliver top-tier sweets as a regular tribute. Her dad is impressed. She handled the drama herself without needing his help. He laughs about her finding some toys to play with while getting her daily exercise. Seeing him this happy is the ultimate win. Duzlebert carries Hiyoko through the castle grounds, noting that her father might still be a bit grumpy with her. A sudden crash echoes from the main tower as something explosive goes off in the distance. Nearby, someone clutches a cloth nervously while calling out for her blue-haired friend. At a table with the noble boys, Hiyoko casually drops the bombshell that she wants a pet. Wolf snaps that his name definitely isn't blue hair, while the rest of the squad wonders where this sudden whim came from. She just stares off into space, looking suspiciously innocent. Deciding that silence is her best weapon, she refuses to explain her true motives to her. These persistent noble kids are starting to look more like yapping puppies than actual rivals. Wolf can practically smell the mischief on her and knows this pet idea isn't going to end well for anyone. The moment she brings it up to her foster dad, he nearly has a stroke and flips into his rooster form. He's absolutely crushed, wondering if he simply isn't a good enough companion for her anymore. The onlookers can only watch in disbelief as the high-ranking deity has a midlife crisis over a pet request. He tries to shut the idea down by claiming she's too young, and the staff is already overworked. Hiyoko doesn't miss a beat, suggesting they just dump all the pet duties onto Schwartz. Even as he calls Schwartz a total klutz, Hiyoko is already celebrating her inevitable victory. Trying to find a middle ground, he suggests she starts small by catching some bugs. Apparently, even the Demon King gave the okay for some low-maintenance insects. Hiyoko is sold on the plan instantly and gives the giant bird a big squeeze to seal the deal. The news hits Schwartz like a physical blow as she realizes her new job is bug hunting. She tries to psych herself up for the lady's sake, but she's visibly shaking with pure terror. Seeing her caretaker on the verge of a total breakdown, Hiyoko decides to let her off the hook. Duzlebert isn't just asking, he's drafting the knights as his personal porters. The guys go from 0 to 100 once they realize they're on a mission with the god himself. Hiyoko is officially decked out in her bug hunting fit, dress and all. Turns out her dad came through with the gear, and she's ready to put the squad to work. She doesn't even wait for a signal before zooming into the woods like a tiny blur. The knights are left standing there sweating, wondering if they're even needed. The woods don't stand a chance against her. She's climbing trees and diving into bushes like a pro athlete on a mission. Total silence is the move if she wants the rare loot. She creeps through the brush before sprinting back to show off her find. Look at this absolute unit of a beetle. Even her dad has to admit she's got elite scouting skills. She's just happy to see something new that didn't exist in the human world. Meanwhile, the knights are staring at the cage like they're looking at a ticking bomb. Rick nearly jumps out of his skin the moment he sees her catch. He leans in close with a look of pure shock. Wait, isn't this an endangered species? He shouts. Hiyoko stands there in her summer dress, clutching the cage with a blank stare while the adults start losing it. One knight asks if she is really going to release the rare find, sending the others into a full panic. They scramble to stop her, desperately trying to find the right words before she lets the endangered bug fly away. Since nobody knows how to handle the rare find, they decide to haul the entire habitat back to the castle and let the boss deal with it. Hiyoko was already starting to view the beetle as her personal pet. Back at the castle, the king hands the find over to the pros, leaving her dreams of a new playmate in the dust. The scientists are obsessed with their rare find, explaining how hard it is to care for while letting Hiyoko know she can visit the VIP bug lounge whenever she wants. Returning to her Fluff form, our girl can't help but notice that the bug's new house is way bigger than her own birdhouse. Watching the bug live its best life on a tiny swing, the jealous bird demands an immediate spa session to level the playing field. Duzlebert sports a smug smirk while the king looks on in confusion. It is time for Hiyoko's premium massage, and she is practically buried in foam. Duzlebert realizes our girl was just feeling a little left out after seeing that rare bug get the VIP treatment. Taking over the king's office desk for the spa day, Duzlebert gets serious with the bath. He admits he put in some serious practice because there is no way he is letting the king beat him at grooming their favorite fluff ball. After a quick blast of feather spray, our girl has peaked as an absolute fluff unit. She takes a long look at her majestic reflection while the king confirms she has definitely reached peak beauty status. That's it for today, guys. If you made it to the end, comment chick chick so I know you're real ones. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. Until then, keep on cooking.